Well, happy August 29th to you. It's a Tuesday right here on the George Show on 710 KNUS. If it sounds just a hair different, it's because I am back in the studio right here in beautiful Denver, Colorado. Homeless, crime-ridden Colorado. Across from Billy, the producer, he is in the same studio I am. That is unusual, at least for the past several days.
Yeah, this is weird.
I know it's going to be weird. Yeah, the only day, and I just realized this, that I'm not going to be in the rest of this week is Friday.
Why?
I want to tell you, but I feel like it's something I should save for the Monday show.
Okay, absolutely.
I feel like it's
Let's
the kind of thing.
out. We will explore your
I'm
proctology
not leaving the
exam
state
together.
again or something, although that seems to happen a lot between the business stuff and the military stuff and good gravy, man. I'm on the verge here. And by the verge, I mean several trips from being 1K. On United, which I listen to those people get called out. Those are freaks. I'm like, what kind of life do you have if you're flying that much? And now I'm like,
that's you.
Holy crap, that's me.
Yeah. So basically, you just have to get out of the state just to miss the arraignment. Is basically.
I keep dodging service.
Yeah,
I think is
excellent.
the correct
Good job.
term.
Yes,
I'm dodging service.
Nice job.
Very good at it. I don't know why they just don't come here.
I know.
Other than the fact that nobody can seem to find us.
No, it's.
But flying back in yesterday was good. They do this new thing now where in order to preserve their on-time departure, they pull away from the gate.
Oh, yeah. That's such crap.
And then before the captain came on, my little phone thing vibrated and I looked and it now had a delayed flight time by 30 minutes. Oh. They don't say anything. They're walking up and down. Then the captain comes on and then just very politely says, and hey, there's some backups in Denver, some weather stuff there, and they're doing this new thing now where they blah, blah, blah. So we're going to be departing in 30 minutes. And I thought, this is so fake. Now you get credit for an on-time departure, even if it's not your fault. I don't care. It's like, what fraud?
Yeah, it is.
So I pulled the laptop back out, sent some more scathing emails to the White House, that kind of thing. And
excellent.
Blaming them for all of this. Really, if I could find Pete Buttigieg's email, I would pummel him with these things.
It is rather ridiculous.
Based on his performance thus far, it feels like he doesn't have either the powers or the temerity to fix them. So I'm just going to scream into the abyss.
And again, this was just, I mean, there's some things that I like about Buttigieg, not a lot, but there's some things that I do like about him. But this is just, it seems like Biden did take your son to work day. I mean, it just, there was no reason to make him transportation secretary. There was zero.
Well, except to elevate his profile. I love the idea of
exactly.
putting he and Ramaswamy in a debate cage match. Do you know what I mean? And just let the two of them, cat fight each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And
the thing that I admire the most is he likes to go and he'll go and talk to the opposition, which that's the number one thing. I don't know. I hardly ever agree with the things that he's saying, but I appreciate the fact that at times, not all the time, but at times he will go and take the questions when, I don't know, people like Biden avoid the questions. So I admire that, but I don't like the answers to the questions. That would be funny though. Buttigieg and Ramaswamy, it would be like it would be let's have a cage match between two vastly underexperienced and
overeducated people.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be interesting. And so then I found out, horrible news. Well, not horrible in that. Just that my college roommate, one of my college roommates, his father passed away, and so this weekend, whatever we were going to do, at least I'm going to go up to Billings, Montana, which I just left Bozeman yesterday.
Did. Yeah.
And I'm going to go back up there and pay my respects.
How nice.
Really trying to prioritize some of the relationships in your life. When you look back, and I mean, I only had a couple of roommates in college, and I've known this guy's dad.
That hard to live with.
And by the way, he's a friend of the show. He's been in the studio. It's Dale, Colonel Dale. Colonel Dale's dad passed away. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, me too.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to go up there, and I'm just trying to figure out, do I just fly in, do my thing and fly out, or do I fly in and then hang out there? And I mean, am I of any value? I don't want to be a burden to the family, but am I there to help in some way? I don't know.
Yeah, that is weird because it's does he need you around? Does he need that emotional support?
Yeah. Or like I'm just moving casseroles from place to place. I don't know. I mean, man, it's just a tough one. So
that's tough.
The kids and everybody else will be up at that very first CSU game up there, which could have been exciting. But I got to go do this thing.
They might have their own vendor that just sits down next to them and say, "Hey, can I get you anything?" I can go over there and get
I heard they're close to a sellout.
Sure. Let's go with that.
And I'm in the process of securing tickets to the CSU CU game on the 16th.
Nice.
And I just got in the mail yesterday. By the way, and this is a little update. Jeffy turned 16 yesterday. I couldn't be prouder. And of course, being the weepy parent, I'm the one that's with him last night as we're driving around, and I'm just, my voice is doing that cracking thing as I'm telling him how proud I am of him. And, I'm trying to tell him, hey, I remember when you were this big.
Yep.
And all I can do is make the stupid hand gestures. And anyway,
and that is tough. That's tough because you're looking at them becoming that adult.
Yeah.
And all the stuff. And there's some times that 16 is tough for a parent, in my opinion, because it's along with 18. But you look at all the dumb stuff that you did at 16 to 18,
that
window.
Oh, yeah.
And they have this opportunity and you want them to have that freedom. But it's hard to let them go because you want to protect them from all the dumb stuff that other people do out there. And that's a difficult one. That's 16. It's a big, big, big deal. And you figure out and think about like you yesterday. You jumped on your 10 speed and you thought you were invincible. And crash.
I told him that story.
Yep. Yeah.
And
you should have gotten him an OP shirt.
He felt I should. You could find him.
I know.
I told him the story, and I think he felt pity for me. I'm like, it's a funny story, and he was like, "Oh, Dad, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Son, it's one of those things, man. You just go through it, and now here I am, however many years later, reflecting back on that weird thing. I can't remember what my parents told me, and I can't remember what my brother or my sister got me or anything like that. But I remember that moment because it was so humbling. It was just, I think, the Almighty going, "Oh, is this a good day? Is this a really good day? Are you a superstar?" Bam!
Yeah, bang.
Now you're on the asphalt. What do you think of that?
Check.
Yeah, that's it. Just don't forget who you are.
Exactly.
And I've been falling down ever since. Alexa, by the way, texts in, Monday's Labor Day. She doesn't think we're on the air.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I have heard
so funny.
I've heard rumors about that we may not be, only because I have advertising representatives here wanting to move the commercials that we do from the Monday to the Tuesday. So I'm guessing they know something we don't. Yeah, I've got several emails over here on the magic screen.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah. How can Alexa know this? You and I don't even know if we're supposed to come in on Monday. I mean,
I have no idea. I think Alexa's on some sort of an email chain that even we don't get.
I'm starting to think actually Alexa is Brian's boss. Do you know what I mean? So
exactly.
She's like Charlie's Angels. She's Charlie. Yeah, Alexa's just back there, and she'll get Kelly and Brian on the phone, and Melanie back in the day, and be like, "Hello, KNUS Angels."
Yes,
exactly. And, "Oh, hi, Alexa."
Yes. It'd be a good idea. Prager cigar night.
Prager,
that's wonderful.
Oh yeah, Prager cigar night. Thank you, Alexa, for the idea that you gave to Brian and Kelly, because it's happening this Wednesday.
This Wednesday.
That's tomorrow.
I've heard rumors.
Dude, that's tomorrow.
I know.
Listen, the only downside to the whole thing, and it's a very small one, but it means something to me a little bit, is it is back to school night for Jeff and the high schoolers.
Yeah.
I just never miss those.
Really?
Unless I'm like out of town on something, and that doesn't happen that much on these. I just never miss them. And so I am going to tomorrow because we get to do the awesome cigar night thing. I presume we'll see you at what time? What time will you be getting there?
I will be in a different bar at that time, which sounds much more fun than actually is.
As a protest. It's a boycott.
Yeah, exactly. No, they're paying me to do the trivia thing in another bar, which is remarkably fun. This one I really enjoy.
I simply don't understand why the smart people here, Alexa included, didn't combine those talents with the cigar night. Like, you could have had Dennis Prager trivia.
Yes, we could have. Yes.
And it would have been brilliant.
I know. We could have had a lot of fun with that one. But
you know what? In fact, I may enlist your powers. You should come up with at least 3 trivia questions I can ask the crowd.
Because I will get you in trouble.
No,
don't you know?
You're going to get me in trouble?
Yes,
it'd be a nice change to have someone to blame.
Yes,
I mean,
good
Lord.
That's the thing. I would be the person to blame. So that, no, that would be a bad.
Listen, as far as people know, Monday is the start of a trend. We are just not going to be here anymore. We don't know. Nobody knows.
No idea. Yeah. There's no calendar or anything.
No, I mean, and Stefan Pop and Smoke just sort of unexpectedly.
I'm still dealing with that. There's still a little.
And listen,
it still gets me here a little bit.
I'm going to reveal a little something. I know Stefan's not listening because he doesn't get up till noon anymore. But at one point when he told, he's like, hey, total secret, dude. Total secret. Let's just keep this between us. Only a handful of people know. The afternoon after that, people are texting me going, hey, Stefan's retiring. I'm like, what the? Are you kidding?
Short-term secret.
You're like, I was brought into the trust tree after the email was sent, and I'm retiring. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Aren't I at least a 2-day secret trust tree guy?
I know. It's like that kid in school that would go around and tell a secret to every one of your friend group, and then you turn and go, he told me a secret. You mean he's talking about the
and you're like, oh, son of a gun.
You knew that he had a tail as a boy too. Wow.
Yeah,
surgery. Yeah,
he has a tail on the front side. But
exactly.
Listen, I know this isn't its own topic, but I did ask you to pull this on just the Vivek thing. And by the way, I heard him use his name on this clip. You have that thing?
Actually, it's in front of you.
It is
right side of your screen, or I can play it too. It's
Hold on,
third one down.
Got this. This is how I know that Stefan hasn't been in here.
Yeah,
because the monitors are all set up so that I can use them.
We got a little behind the scene monitor jockeying.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
When Stefan's been in the studio, because all the sound effects are like on top of the keyboard, like
all over the place.
All over. Whereas I'm like, I don't use the sound effects, so I just push them behind the actual monitor that gets me information.
Yep.
But this is it not the voting age thing? Oh, there it is.
Right there. Yep. That's
the experience. So listen, this is not. I'm not doing a whole topic on this yet. I just want to share with you some of the the current event stuff. By the way, are you going to talk about the Tampa hurricane thing?
Well, I do local news stuff, so
I know, but I mean,
let's
see.
I guess
we have it.
There may be some information that will appear later in the show.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I'll take that.
It might be during the fun stuff. There may be something there that connects to the hurricane tangentially, but we'll talk.
This
about
is a lesson in if you run for president and you become remotely credible, people will dig through your dumpsters to find stuff about you, and they'll go back and find every and I only ran for DA and AG.
Yeah.
They will find the old clips of you saying some bat guano crazy stuff or asking questions that ultimately could hurt you.
Yeah.
Let's get to my question here. Go ahead. Reverend Sharpton, hello. I'm Vivek, and I want to ask you, last week on the show we had Senator Kerry, and this week and the week before we had Senator Edwards. And my question for you is, of all the Democratic candidates out there, why should I vote for the one with the least political experience?
What? Huh. That was Vivek Vivek. I'm going to use his pronunciation. Vivek. Back in 2004, during the Democrat primaries and battles, you could hear the names Kerry, Edwards, Al Sharpton. Al kind of crushed him with the answer.
Yeah,
but
he did. He really did.
We don't have the whole answer, but you got to go back and listen to this thing. But there it is, man. And by the way, even 18, 19 years ago, this kid is finding a way to get himself on camera doing his thing.
And you knew, and the thing that got me was the issue was he thought he had a gotcha question.
Oh, yeah.
And he got jujitsu'd by a guy that has been doing this and taking gotcha questions from people decades before Vivek was even, a twinkle in his parents' eye. The thing that also got me interesting there is he's talking about which party's presidential candidates he's talking about voting for.
Yeah,
which ones?
Buddy, I didn't even pick up on that until you brought it up.
It is
he's talking about who to vote for. Yes. I presume he only gets in that room, and it was kind of like a town hall questioning thing. I presume he's only in the room because he's identified as a likely Democrat voter.
Yes, there's no reason to bring in anybody else. At that
Why
point.
would I vote for the person with the least political experience? And if you'll recall, that was back during the reelect for President Bush. So that's very interesting. Billy, great year for that. I didn't pick up on that at all.
It's the twistiness that goes
without
inside.
Playing the minute-long answer that Al Sharpton gave, and I am no Al Sharpton fan.
Oh, yeah.
But he does a really nice job of saying there's a lot of people out there that mistake a job title for experience.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, damn, man, that was a good one.
It was really good.
A real good one.
He talks about, I got involved politically at the age of 12, and I did this, and so I've been doing this, and you're like, ooh.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
ooh.
It was. It turned out to be a nice softball. Guy thought it was going to be a curve, but it was a hanging curve.
Oh yeah, it was.
And Al just crushed it out of the park there. And I'm not anxious to see that.
And he didn't even wait. If you go back and you watch the video, it was Vivek ended the question,
Vivek.
And within 2 seconds, not even that, it's a second, and Sharpton's like, bam.
Oh, I know.
It would have been different if he sat there and goes, huh, and you had like a 3-4 count.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, he saw.
He was
that
in fact, his answer immediately was, "I'm the one with the most political experience."
Yes, and
I am the one with the most.
Yeah, and that's when the crowd erupted in laughter and cheers. I was
yeah.
like, oh,
yeah,
wow.
It was.
Yeah, like,
but nonetheless, I think actually now the most important part of that, Billy, was not that he's outing himself with the same question folks ought to ask him, which is why am I voting for the guy with the least experience. But why are you voting for any of those clowns?
Yes.
How are you in a position to vote for any of those dudes?
How is that? The other thing that got me, though, is that it reminded me that Al Sharpton is slowly turning into the Crypt Keeper. I just every once in a while I see videos that happen on MSNBC and things about look at the crazy things they said, and you sit there like that's Al Sharpton. Yeah. I think that he's slowly
I've just never seen anyone so successfully perpetuate racism for their own financial benefit. I mean, if racism ended tomorrow, that guy would stop existing. Yeah, I don't know how he'd draw a breath anymore.
I always thought that Jesse Jackson was better at it than Sharpton, and I was wrong. Sharpton has much longer lifespan and has somehow twisted into credibility, which I do not understand. I still try to wrap my head around that. But
speaking of Jesse Jackson, have you ever seen a very old Saturday Night Live skit? It's like Jeopardy, but the game show is called The Question is Moot.
Oh, yes.
And one of the funniest things that sticks out in my mind is when I can't even remember who the host is like, whose face appears on the $100 bill? And Jesse Jackson, the guy playing Jesse Jackson's answer was, the question is moot. Yep. No black man's ever seen a $100 bill. Exactly. And then he goes on to talk about all the
other problems.
And I thought these are the funniest SOBs out. I don't know what's happened to the show since, but back then, man, they still have crushing
moments. Yeah, there are moments where they're okay, but they've become, in my mind, they've become too one-sided politically. They don't throw rocks at both sides equally, and I feel like they used to back in the day. They were kind of anti-establishment, and they would go after and crucify both. And I think, and part of it is because like the Alleluia after Hillary lost.
Oh my gosh, by what's her name, McKinnon, who I like.
Yeah,
she's
I like
very
her a
funny.
lot. Yeah, and she did do the song well.
She did really well, very talented.
Yeah, but that to me was kind of like wait a minute, that they definitely were taking a strong political narrative position, and that rubbed me wrong. They could have done a whole lot of other things. They could have had an entire sketch about Hillary planning and going to win, and she's even measuring the drapes in the Oval Office, and there could have been something there about, wait, and then there could have been something there, but instead they had to do this poignant, emotional, and it was such crap. And it was
like a dark day. It was sad. It was all this stuff.
Yeah, I just am like, guys, I understand that you have politics, but go ahead and throw rocks at both sides.
I would much prefer the Tina Fey, Amy Poehler when they finished off one newscast by saying "bitch is the new black." I was like, okay, own it, right? Like own it. If that's Hillary, own it.
The other day I showed my oldest son Max. I showed him the old school Jane Curtin, Dan Aykroyd.
Oh my God, Jane!
And point counterpoint, and he's sitting there going, they said what? And he's like, what year is this? And and you forget how sharp Jane was as well. She was just throwing rocks at him. And then he turns out, Jane, you ignorant. Yes. And that's the line that everyone remembers, but back and forth, and why they don't have that type of a deal. And because they're taking one issue and they're showing the extremes on both sides. And it was great. It was really good.
The coincidence of the timing of this is wonderful, because on Thursday, I went and filmed Colorado Inside Out. I failed, according to Chris Rourke, who was on the panel with me. She's the editor of the Denver Business Journal.
Yeah.
I failed to appropriately promote that on Friday when it airs. You can still go to PBS 12, Rocky Mountain PBS, whatever it is, and you can definitely find it there. But they edited out one part where Chris and I went back and forth on Boebert, and she had already been kind of dancing on her grave, saying, hey, it's over. There's a poll within 2 points. Adam Frisch. Now Boebert's got challengers. And I said, listen, that poll is virtually unchanged from the outcome of the damn election when she won, right? Like she won by a handful of, votes, and it was within the margin of error, the poll, blah, blah, blah. And then Chris came back, and then Kyle Dyer, who hosts it, looks at me and is like, do you have another response? And I go, oh, I didn't know you wanted me to keep going. They edited this out. And I turned to Chris and I go, Jane, and then I stopped. And I'm not sure everybody at the group got it, but
that's fantastic.
It perfectly timed for this story right here. But that did not make the actual production. They found a way to cut that out, even though I never said the S word. I never. You're not supposed to say slut, and I never did. So there it is. Is that one of the 7?
No,
the words?
That is not.
Is there 7? Are there 7?
Yeah, there are. But some of them are, again, okay, we'll talk about it off the air. Some are things like context has changed it. Also, community standards, meaning that what we could say here would be vastly different than what we could say in, say, Florida or Boulder. They have different standards there. But yeah, there are a couple of examples of which I'm not going to tempt the FCC gods by giving examples on the air.
But if I were to say, Billy, you ignorant slut, something like that, does that end up? Nobody cares.
No one cares anymore.
But if I were to say something really horrible to by the way, and I don't know that we can make a topic out of this today. Speaking of horrible,
yes,
we're going to find this clip from our good friend Danielle Jurinsky.
Yeah.
And I got to give credit to Chris Rourke from the Denver Business Journal. I'm sure she's like, don't say my name.
Don't give me credit.
Don't say it.
Yeah.
But there is something that she said at I think it was a city council meeting yesterday or Monday. And I know that they do their business on Monday. And I wish I could find the exact clip. But apparently there is a rift developing between the city council and the mayor on some issue regarding whether there should be an Office of Economic Development or some sort of economic development thing. I didn't understand all the backdrop, but the guy that's sitting there, his name was Maximilian something, something. The guy that was, I'm going to find it, Billy.
Okay.
Buddy, it was, here it is. I'm going to find it right here.
Say?
This is a quote that has been attributed to Danielle.
Oh.
And again, I'm not setting the stage appropriately. I'm reading a quote from Maximilian Levy, Levy. You ain't got no alibi, you Levy. And this is what it says. We're done with this game. Danielle Jurinsky tells Kaufman, accuses him of proposing this to spite Mitchell. Quote, it's really sad to see how personal this has become for you. This feels like a bad divorce between mom and dad. And quite frankly, dad is being a dick. I just thought, holy crap. What is going on in city council? I didn't want to ask her to come on for that because that's probably not the kind of controversy you want to highlight or anything, but holy smokes.
Holy smokes. And oddly enough, in that quote, you have crested over one of the words that I was not going to say this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Richard?
Yes, exactly. And that is an example of how this has evolved as far as FCC rules, because the context now matters. That you can say, hey, dad's being a dick, but you can't say, hey, look at my. Can't do that.
Oh, yeah. So okay. You can be one. You just can't
show it.
Reference it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's interesting. Is there a guidebook on this? Do we need the FCC?
Yes, there actually is.
Is there? You know what I think we need
style manual that changes all the time.
We need Billy's style manual for modern radio, at least while it exists.
Those are all bad decisions, though.
No. This is something we ought to post online.
Oh, no, there are times in which I'm doing the other radio show and I do the break and go, yeah, I guess that's okay. And I have to think about, okay, what time zone am I in? Because I cross 5 different time zones and other things.
Yeah, when you self-censor, the listening audience loses out.
I did one this past weekend. I don't remember what the thing was. Oh, yeah, I was talking about this. I said I was at a place where it had really, really bad Wi-Fi last week. And so I did this break. It's not the exact one.
Was it
the radio show this weekend? No, but I go, you know what? And it was part of it was a reference is because of our experience with you on remote. But I was somewhere and I couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work. And so I just said, going somewhere and having bad Wi-Fi is worse than having no Wi-Fi at all. It's like it teases you the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
I go, I feel like I'm again a teenager and I'm watching that PG-13 movie and going, ooh, I'm going to see a booby. Oh, no.
What?
Yeah.
What the hell are you
exactly.
About?
See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That was it. It's like 21 seconds. And I sat there and go, can I do this one? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I can get away with this one. So, yeah.
I guess I get it. If you have no expectation, you can't be disappointed.
I know. See, exactly.
Hey, something else. I don't know if you're doing the local news. Maybe we'll cut away now and I'll say this, but are you talking about the dude at all who got sentenced for threatening Governor Polis?
Let me see. That was earlier this morning. I don't think so. I don't think I've got that one in there. We should talk about that either way.
We'll do that one. Let's hang on to that. Listen,
I've got the one about cyber stalking the ex-girlfriend, but no, I don't have that one. Yeah.
No, that's it.
We can talk about that.
Yeah. Here, buddy, people are already texting in. Don't self-censor on the Rumble. Don't. And that's just a reminder to new listeners, or if you've somehow forgotten, you have the ability to reach right into this studio right here and tickle our fancy, amongst other things. By going to the 710 KNUS app, you can text us right there. I read almost all of them on air. I respond to many of them. Of course, we have the phone number, which I'll give out at the appropriate time for you to call in and have the conversation. But if you listen at all, you know that the 6 o'clock hour, the best hour of the show, is the one where we do a little bit of this, we break away, we come back, we get made smart on the legitimate news of the day that you can talk about over the Zoom water cooler with your buddies. And then we break away and come back for the really good stuff. That's the You Choose the News. But to get there, we got to take this first break. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. You know the time. Time to get caught up on all the legitimate news of the day. It's the Thorpe Report with William.
So much pressure. Legitimate. Oh, man.
Well, legitimate-er,
yeah,
if that's a word.
We got a ridge of high pressure is beginning to build back into our state today. That means warmer weather and far fewer storms are ahead. Tonight, we're going to get basically the lows around 59. It'll be 84 this morning. Tomorrow, highs of 94, clear skies, lows of 61. And by Thursday, high of 95. After that, your guess is as good as anybody else's.
Buddy, I don't mean this to sound provocative.
Please. Yeah.
3 balls over the next 3 days. 3 balls of burning sun with nothing else. No clouds, no lightning, no rains, no afternoon weather. And
so it's either going to be fantastic or it's the apocalypse. So we'll see what happens.
Good grief.
Yeah. Then we wouldn't be here on Monday anyway. So
good point.
See, I'm always thinking about the positive.
Yeah. Thank you, Alexa.
Denver City Council yesterday approved a $7 million contract to provide 200 homeless shelter pallets within our city. Pallets are expected to arrive in November. It's according to Denver's senior homeless advisor. The city is stamped. There's a senior homeless advisor. Is that like he's the senior member, or is it just the advisors for the senior homeless people?
That's a great question. Yeah. Can we please get Mike Johnston on the radio?
We should know about this. Yes, we should. The city stamped they still haven't gotten back to me. City stamped its contract with Pallet BBS Incorporated. According to the resolution, it'll last until August 31st, 2024. Option to extend 1 year. I'm super curious about who's going to qualify for those little homies. Also, it's been 1 year since prosecutors could start charging someone for distribution resulting in the death of fentanyl overdosing. And more than 1,000 Coloradans have died from the drug since the law took effect, according to the state's health department, which is ridiculous. Court records show only 17 people, however, have been charged. That seems out of it a little bit. District attorneys during the 2022 legislative session asked the state lawmakers for a new statute so they could charge someone for distributing fentanyl that has killed a person. Prosecutions are already been able to charge some people for distributing, but again, we only have 17 of them. So far, not good.
And by the way, the penalties have been watered down quite a bit by the hug-a-thugs under the legislative dome there, because nobody should ever be held accountable for their conduct unless they're a white male property owner.
Yeah, and we have to understand what they're going through and their feelings. So Denver City Council approved almost a $5 million settlement on Monday between the city and county of Denver and the Black Lives Matter protesters. Plaintiff class included multiple people who had been arrested during the protest. Defendant, city and county of Denver, agreed to the multi-million-dollar settlement and would fully and forever release Denver from any further liabilities. So
I was wrong, by the way. It's not a white male property owner. It's a white male police officer.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is true.
I don't know what I was thinking about there.
A Colorado man's been charged in federal court with cyber-stalking his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend in Hawaii while reportedly posing as a different ex-boyfriend. 53-year-old John Hart of Louisville was arrested last week in Colorado. Previously lived in Hawaii. Indictment alleges that he told his ex-girlfriend to kill herself and created a dating profile for her, sent men looking to date or have sex with her at her workplace even. So that's not cool. Yeah, so he's going to be charged on that one.
And the couple's in Hawaii, and dude is cyber stalking them while they're in Hawaii?
He was in Hawaii, and then he moved to Colorado and then decided to, create a whole bunch of stuff in Hawaii that represented it. It was her, and things got ugly. So, yeah, not cool.
Not cool.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I know.
Anyway,
I know.
Whatever, man.
I know.
Guy's never going to go to jail.
Not at all. Here's something that's very interesting. The trucking company involved in a crash that killed 5 members of a family on I-25 last year tried to buy insurance after the crash.
Who hasn't done that?
I know. Colorado State Patrol said the driver of the truck didn't have a valid commercial driver's license. Surprise. Police documents show the brakes were out of alignment, and documents filed in federal court now show the truck also wasn't insured.
Is this the truck with the truck driver that let the guy's sentence be reduced or reduce the sentence down to 15
I think it's a different one.
Minutes?
Because this is, let's see, a man named Jesus Puebla faces 5 counts of vehicular homicide. It's a June 2022 crash, so no.
Hold on. Where's that case being prosecuted?
Don't know. He ran to the back of a car, stopped for traffic at 75 miles per hour because his brakes were out of alignment. Lawyers representing the family said the insurance had lapsed on the truck operated by Carbenitez Trucking. Had nearly 100 trucks on the road in the country without insurance.
Oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Exactly. Crash happened on June 13. Documents filed in a federal lawsuit allege the company sought to add the truck to their insurance plan about half an hour after the deadly crash.
Feels like that didn't work.
Not at all. Here's one of your friends, Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser. Their office confirmed publicly that they have opened an investigation into why it's towing. They've seen 950 complaints filed with the Public Utilities Commission in the last year alone. Acknowledgement about the investigation comes after State Senator Julie Gonzalez filed a complaint with the PUC against why it's towing.
Wait a minute, a fellow Denver Democrat goes to Twitter and vomits up a bunch of "I hate why it's towing" on there. By the way, if you read that article, you probably did, Billy. Yes. These are guys who are like, there was nothing illegal about that tow, and we gave. Did you see why they gave her money back for the tow and all that stuff?
No, what was it? No,
they said because we were afraid of retaliation. They were afraid of a legislator retaliation. Totally legit when you look at what happened here.
Yeah.
She complains on Twitter, and her good buddy Phil, I'm sure they've co-endorsed each other in the past, rides in and then tweets out some garbage like, you shouldn't have to be a state senator to get relief or blah, blah. And it's like, right, but why did you do it? Why did you make a big public spectacle of it after Julie Gonzalez?
And what I want to know about this is,
what about the other 950 complaints?
There it is. That's exactly it. That, it's like the idea of, well, we're stealing the cars just to sleep in them. That it was 950 complaints, and it wasn't until a legislator complained that then the AG's office is like, we might have something wrong here.
Well, we better jump on this publicity train.
Fantastic.
If you want proof that this dude is running for governor right now on our taxpayer dollar, and by the way, this sensing session that he's going around the state of Colorado in, I'm not an expert in monopolies. I don't understand how all the law works completely, but I could bring myself up to speed.
You sure can.
But this whole traveling around the state to get people's sense of what it's going to do in no way defines a monopoly.
No.
Like, I'm worried about the merger because I think the cost of spam is going to triple. Okay. That is not evidence of a monopoly or something that will be, you know what I mean? I don't understand it outside the context of I'm running for governor, folks.
Yeah. It's that I want to appear in front of communities to show them that I care when I don't really care. And we have it right here.
Well,
and I want 950 complaints, and it wasn't until a fellow
I want
Dem
to get
had
paid to travel around the state and get FaceTime. Doesn't cost his campaign one penny. All the gas gets paid for by you and me. They drive state cars. He's getting paid to be on the job because he's ostensibly doing. I mean, is that really it? Well, as you know, AG, I've been all over the state of Colorado. Thank you, taxpayer.
Yeah.
Listening to people tell me why Safeway sucks or something.
And the thing is then, during one of those debates or campaign speeches is going to come up, when I was talking down in Pueblo or I was in Gunnison and I talked to Marcia and Marcia told me about the
my God,
she's
every little story.
Exactly. Every good story.
Marcia shouldn't have to pay triple for spam.
I know.
And the state treasurer, by the way, Dave Thomas, is that his name?
I don't know.
I'll be honest, nobody knows who the state treasurer is, but he did come out. Is it Dave Thomas?
I have no clue who it is.
Anyway, he came out.
Seems like it should be important.
And he's come out in opposition to the merger. And it's like, well, everybody was waiting to hear what the treasurer was going to say.
Yeah.
Not only can they not pick him out of a lineup, nobody can define what he does.
Yeah.
But thank God he rushed forward and said, hey, everybody, state treasurer here to say, I oppose the merger.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You're not the Secretary of State. You have nothing to do with the regulation of the business. You're not the AG, so you have nothing to do with the legal formalities surrounding whether or not there's a monopoly or not. But thank you. Thanks for chiming in.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And again, gosh, what could happen if the two largest grocery companies merged? I'm sure that is going to make our selection and our prices go down because that always happens.
The relevance. Well, there'll be economies of scale. The relevance of the state treasurer weighing in on this.
Their economy and scale of profit goes way up afterwards. Exactly how that happens.
It feels like the same kind of relevance of, I don't know, Betsy Markey weighing in on the Lauren Boebert. Oh, wait, she did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's former Congresswoman Betsy Markey from 100 years ago has weighed in on the Lauren Boebert race. Thank God.
God, that was
it's over.
That one.
It's over.
It's over now.
If you're out there listening, DBJ, you know that's the nail in the coffin.
Yes.
She carries a lot of sway.
Yeah. Oh, and evidently there was a couple of fans last night that tried to audition for our Colorado Rockies because they wanted to show how quickly they might be able to run the bases. They encountered Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Atlanta Braves. He was actually knocked down at one point. One fan got his arms around Acuna during the middle of the seventh inning. 2 security people quickly grabbed the fan in right field as they tried to drag him away. A third security person approached. A second fan then sprinted towards the group and was tackled by one of the security people as a fourth member of security chased him from behind. Acuna did not appear to be injured and remained in the game. Atlanta had just scored 4 runs to take a 9-4 lead. Braves won the game 14-4 because, of course, they did.
Because it's the Rockies.
Yes, exactly. Now, what do you think about that? Dudes run on the
I'm
field.
so pissed off by that. If you
Yeah.
remember Hank Aaron when he hit the big home run 7-14 or whatever it was, watching those 2 clowns run around the bases with him during that historic moment. And I get it. It was jubilation, and I don't care about any of that stuff. They didn't earn it. They weren't out there doing it. This was a historic moment. Every time I see one of these drunks on the field, I think to myself, we have a fix for this.
Yeah.
We can legislatively declare that if you enter a professional field or something during regulation, you are presumed to pose an imminent risk to anyone on the field's safety such that they can do anything to you in self-defense. It quickly becomes one of the most exciting parts of the game. And even if we don't televise it, if you're there live, it's like a gladiator thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you are on the field sprinting across any outfielder, any player, they can go hammer and tong against you. I'm telling you, it'll happen depending upon how drunk people are, a couple times, and then it will stop happening.
Yes. And the idea of, let's lean into something, the qualified immunity. Give them immunity. The players on the field, the coaches,
have at it.
Even security, qualified immunity.
Oh, I love it.
Because if they're doing it, and I would love to see it get onto the NFL field, because I want to see that middle linebacker come and just
crush him.
And I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it on soccer, because we get a lot of a-holes running out on the soccer field. There's one not this weekend, previous weekend.
Brilliant.
Would love to see it. Dudes, I'm here. Come over and just lay him out. Just slide tackle him and clip his knees.
You know what? It's the new running man.
Yeah, studs up, go right in hard, as hard as you possibly can. And say, that's it. You step on that field, you absolve anybody that is a professional athlete.
You are presumed to be a risk.
Yes.
It's just self-defense.
Imminent risk. Yes, absolutely.
And someone's going to test it out, and it's going to go poorly. It's going to be running man meets some kind of gladiator thing.
I'm waiting for.
I like it.
I want to see the mascots get involved, because they get out there, guys running around, and Dinger comes running after him with a bat.
Yeah, but instead it's a real bat.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Yes,
and it's just thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump. Look
now
at
we
Dinger
would
go.
all love Dinger, because right now he's a waste of
People
space.
would just cheer him on.
Yes.
But then all the other drunks in the stands after that would be like, hey, man, hop on the field and go do that thing. And they're like, did you see Eddie?
Yeah,
Dude's
exactly.
brain damaged and crippled.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I'm not interested. No matter how drunk I am, I'm not interested in going on the field to get beaten to death.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
You could even run the PSA announcement beforehand and go, I'm Jim. And last season, I ran on the field. Don't run on the field. Okay, now that I've offended everybody, we probably should step aside.
And we should. Also, I should clarify, that's not the opinion of the Denver Business Journal, by the way, that Bobert is going to get smoked because Betsy Markey came out. That's just the opinion of the editor.
Yes.
And the senior editor. That's all. It's not, it's me. I don't know. We'll have that conversation. Let's cut away for a break. Somehow I'm still hosing you out of all the time we need for the sponsors. Here. Damn it. Stick around. You choose the news. When we come back, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Let's get it on like Donkey Kong with You Choose the News, William.
How do I follow that? Alrighty, yes, it is time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News, where we have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really stupid stories about us humans, giving them even dumber headlines to play this fake radio news game because the people in charge aren't awake. And we like it that way. So don't tell them. Yeah. Don't tell them I also just moved a couple minutes of commercials in the next hour. So far, seems okay. So that's why we're here with reasonable time. Speaking of reasonable, here are your choices this morning, sir. Headline number 1, buddies with a baramal. Headline number 2, traveling tension leads to trauma. Headline number 3, the eyes have it. And headline number 4, be the news you want to see. Alrighty, yet again, your choices are buddies with baramal, traveling tension leads to trauma, the eyes have it, and be the news you want to see.
Be the news you want to see.
We're going to travel to Chicago for this one, specifically WTVO. TV news crew in Chicago recently was reporting on, obviously, their string of armed robberies that are happening and carjackings over the weekend. It is awful. There was a TV crew doing a live shot at the 1200 block of North Milwaukee right before 5 a.m. That's when a black SUV and a gray sedan pulled up. 3 armed suspects got out with ski masks and took the news crew's belongings and their equipment.
What?
Yeah, the news crew was there doing a thing about carjackings and armed robberies. While they were doing the live shot, they got robbed.
You can't pay for anything that awesome.
No, you can't.
That's
no, you
brilliant.
Can't. Yes. So, yeah, they got robbed while they were doing the news about the robbings. Nice job. Yeah, especially that's nice job, Chicago. All right. Buddies with baramal, traveling tension leads to trauma, or the eyes have it.
The eyes have it.
The eyes have it. Yeah, Floridians, you might have heard, are prepping for a storm. Storm Adalia is supposed to hit the Gulf Coast later today. And that's not a good thing because since 1953, we have retired 13 Atlantic storms beginning with the letter I. Meaning that, according to the National Weather Service, it happens when a storm's death toll or destruction is so severe, using that name again would be deemed insensitive.
Oh, my God.
So some letter has to be number 1. So, yeah, be scared of the I storms. The storms that have been named I have killed more people than any of our other storms.
Crap.
Yeah, second place is F, because of course it is, and then C. So, yeah, but 13 deadly storms with the letter I.
Buddy, that's crazy.
I know. So you really should be worried about this.
We're working to try to get one of our guys on the ground out there in Tampa to get on. And we've had him on before.
It seems like we have.
I think we have.
But he hasn't gotten back to me yet.
We might need to hit him up tomorrow. When's it supposed to hit?
Late today, tomorrow is what I'm hearing. So we'll see.
The stories are scary bad. Sorry, man. I keep
they're talking about 12-foot storm surge, which is 12 feet of water coming in. And the crazy thing is that one cubic yard of water weighs somewhere around 1,700 pounds.
Holy crap.
So that is an amazing amount of force that is going to be rushing onto the...
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Alrighty. Speaking of ridiculous, your final choice this morning. Buddies with baramal or traveling tension leads to trauma.
Traveling tension leads to trauma.
As it always does. Here we're going to talk about a Wyoming man who was going to California. Antonio Scrieve, 29 of Wilson, Wyoming, problem is his car stopped as he was driving. So he made multiple calls to 911 saying he needed a tow truck. They directed him, sir, this is 911, not a towing service. He said, I don't care. He continued to call them over and over again. So American Force Police responded to his location and said, sir, we are neither auto mechanics nor tow truck drivers. Please don't call 911. He said, okay. Officers got back into the car.
No.
And he called 911. Like immediately, within minutes. So the officers start turning back around to come back to where Scrieve is located. That's when he jumps out into the road, flags down another motorist, jumps in the car and says, drive like your life depends on it. And the driver evidently did, thinking that he was being threatened. Then they speed away. What? Yes. The driver attempts to call the police from his cell phone while speeding away from the officers. Scrieve grabs the phone and throws it out the window, as one does.
Yeah,
so they then continue. Yeah, they continue to be chased. Eventually, they employ some of those stop sticks and push them off the road. When the car stopped, Scrieve did what everyone does, ran back into the road, ran into northbound and southbound traffic, nearly getting hit by several vehicles, impending the commuter traffic at that time. When the police came up and tried to take him into custody, he said, wait, no, don't shoot. And just to prove that, promptly dropped trow, exposing Jim and the twins to everybody there.
No, what?
Yes.
I think there might be some mental illness there.
Just maybe. He has no prior criminal history, but now he's going to have a long list of charges. All righty, sir. That's it. Back to you.
That's the only long part. Well, I can't believe it. Anyway, listen, we're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, of course, we're going to talk about all the good news of the day with you. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's that second of 4 hours. We're with you till 10. We get replaced by Chuck Kirk. And then the guy, the big man, DP Dennis Prager, is on from 11 to 1 before he's replaced by Seb Gorka. I'll get to what we do local after that. But Dennis Prager is going to be here in about, less than 36 hours. He's going to be here, and we're going to be standing tall at the View House there in Centennial, right off of I-25, somewhere between, I want to say Dry Creek and Arapahoe. Some pronounce it Arapahoe. He's going to be there, and you can join us and him for a nice, intimate get-together. By the way, tomorrow, I'm going to prime the pump already. I need to get your questions, listener questions for Dennis Prager, and you send them in here. In fact, you might even call in tomorrow and get those things on there. I'd like to be made smarter about what questions to ask him. I could come up with my own questions, but, what pajamas does he wear to bed doesn't seem like it's going to be the one that really gets to the heart of who Dennis Prager is. Although, what a guy wears to bed could be revealing. Nonetheless, that's tomorrow. You can still get your tickets while they last at 710knus.com. Just click on the banner. You get the premium cigar with it. You get the drink with it. You get the carving station and the hors d'oeuvres and all that other stuff with your ticket. Make sure if you have any opportunity to do it during the show, do it during the show. Otherwise, after you pulled over or you've been pulled over, make sure you get to a computer or your phone and take care of it that way. Then at 3:00, of course, we go live and local with Deb Flora. I think Stefan Tubes is back in the saddle today. He'll be at the event tomorrow, as will, I believe, Deb. I'm pretty sure we talked Randy into coming. I don't know about Dr. Dunn or Pete, but it wouldn't shock me if they made an appearance as well. But I for sure will be there, pummeled with the obligations, responsibility to keep this thing on the I don't know. It's like putting a burglar in charge of the jewelry store. I don't know if they know what they're doing, but you can witness all of it. That's tomorrow. Now, listen, we talked about some events of the day. We talked about the local news through the Thorpe Report. And I should tell you, as the texts start coming in here this morning, here's a very nice one. The 6:00 hour is fantastic today! Exclamation point. That makes me so happy. And then it's followed by, you've had some duds recently. Just like, well, I love the candor. I love people who are willing to be honest with us.
I appreciate that. We will put that in our back pocket and take that as advice. Although, just for the texter, I'm just saying that personally, we found out from a few listeners that if you start at 6:00 and have 1 or 2 shots of tequila, we are funnier.
We are funnier.
Oh,
and frankly,
so much funnier.
I think if we had 1 or 2 shots of tequila, we would also be funnier.
Yes, we would. Yes,
perceptibly
also,
by us.
Yeah. Also, we're unemployed, but still, yeah. But
would we
funnier.
Be unemployed? Is there a Salem rule? I didn't actually get through the handbook.
Yeah, I know that. I had to help you cite it.
You know what? That's no joke, folks. There was a moment where my tardiness in signing this thing had taken on such a life of its own that Billy was ordered by the powers that be. You may not leave the building until you get Brauchler to sign this thing.
They told me, they said, we'll have a conversation with you if he leaves the building and you do not get him to sign this. I'm like, but.
And it happened.
Yes.
That doesn't mean I read it. It just means I acknowledged reading it.
Yes, exactly. You acknowledged it. There is an FCC rule that you cannot consume alcohol on the air for terrestrial radio.
There was a whole WKRP where that happened.
I know. Yeah. And there's some things. And I may have, in my career, been involved with other particular radio shows that did consume alcohol on the air. I'm just saying that there may have been a time in which I was running an afternoon show at one of the other stations in the market, and it was on a holiday, and everybody else had left early, like at 2:00. And the hosts,
CPR,
the hosts, no, the might be in the iHeart family. And the hosts who were on the air at the time, both of whom are very well known in this market, turned to the intern, gave him $40 and said, "Go get a case of beer."
Oh, whoa!
Yeah.
That was the afternoon show.
Yeah,
but afternoon. I mean,
the group of us may have polished off the entire case before the end of the show, which was at 7. So again, that was a great show. That was very fun. But yeah,
does that extend, by the way, to the edibles and the other smokables, or is it just alcohol?
No, I'm sure it does apply. I haven't checked,
and by the way, I'm not a consumer of that.
Yeah, I'm assuming it does because
I've had an increasing number of friends and acquaintances, by the way, who have dabbled in the old wacky tobacco and the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, and especially I bet the edibles, because that makes it easier for you. That makes it, rather than having to have,
when you feel like you're not smoking it up and you don't smell like Boulder or something like that, or the 16th Street Mall.
You're just doing the little edibles thing.
Have
I've read into that.
Have you or any of your friends gone down that road since the legalization? By the way, the folks that said, legalizing it isn't going to increase use. What utter garbage. The entire market is premised on the idea that it will increase use.
Yeah, that was kind of the argument.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, the idea that we're going to now make it profit motive. And so, of course, it's going to. Yeah, and a surprising number of people, again, like you, that you talk to and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. I knew some people that actually traveled. They would travel here for business every so often because they'd have to come in, check in with home offices, things like that. And then they would go, can't wait to get back to Denver because I get to buy my stuff. I'm like,
unbelievable.
Really?
I
was surprised.
And in the past, when people are like, yeah, it's illegal and that doesn't stop anybody. It stopped me as a kid. Like I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to break that particular law. And I didn't want it showing up in my urine when I wanted to go in the military. And I didn't want to have to lie on the form that said, have you ever, and all that stuff. But I don't know. It feels like more and more people who I like and I respect are going down that road. And I can't be like, well, what you're doing is morally wrong. I don't know if there's any moral aspect to it, but I have no interest except for this one thing.
Yeah.
The folks that say that a certain product, I don't know what the contents are because I just don't dabble, say, oh yeah, it helps you sleep. You will sleep so well if you take, and I'm like, anything that helps me sleep better, I'm like, I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be prescription.
That's interesting. Didn't know that one. The one that worries me is that, as we know, when we were in high school, you would find somebody's older brother, sister, or, the person in the neighborhood that would go to the liquor store and buy you beer. I mean, there were people that would do that. And now they're going to the pot stores and buying the stuff for the kids. That's the part that annoys me the most. That's the part that really, that really kind of twists me, is because yes, back in the day you could find it. That was you did, but now it is incredibly easy and incredibly prevalent. And that is the part that has annoyed me the most about.
And of course, the hug-a-thug legislators under the Gold Dome have made a point of making it clear that if you do that, you will face potential probation.
Possibly.
You will possibly face potential probation if you sell drugs or get them to an underage kid. Whereas in other countries, it would be like, we're going to put you to death, dude. If you, and all of a sudden, I don't know, they seem to have a different kind of drug problem.
Yeah. And the thing is, again, there should be some consequence for that. There should be some prison time. There should be something where your freedoms are restricted.
Take a pinky or something like that.
Exactly. Just instead of the idea, because there's a reason why we don't want the kids ingesting it and we don't want them experimenting it at that point, both for their development, but also because choices. And,
as you know, and by the way, I don't know why you're allowed to buy marijuana before the age of 25 or 30 or whatever age at which will hold you accountable for killing somebody.
Yeah,
I don't understand why we do that, because people's judge, and we should, I guess maybe this is where Vivek is coming from when he's like, hey, we got to raise the voting age to 25 because people are just too stupid. I'm not sure I agree that they're too stupid.
Yeah. But again, if the argument was stupid, maybe.
There's a whole lot of people in Congress that wouldn't get there, but we get what we vote for, and that's the key. But I have never dabbled, and I just don't anticipate ever dabbling in the weed. Even out of uniform, and I've got the clock's ticking, man. I'm less than 2 years from mandatory retirement from the Army, so I don't know.
I've run across some post-military people that are somewhat higher up the food chain, not than you, but just other people that based on rankings, they're like, oh yeah, within the first 2 weeks, I'm like, wait, what? Pardon me?
Yeah, I just maybe I get there.
Yeah.
The one other thing that a friend of mine told me about, who's actually now in the business,
really,
all legally, is like, hey, this has real veterans benefits to some dudes with PTSD, and also they're talking about getting into ketamine, which here we are saying, hey, ketamine killed Elijah McClain. Let's never use it for anything ever again. But there are legitimate therapeutic uses for it. And it's like, well, if it's going to help veterans with the PTSD, there's got to be a way to do that without making it Pez dispenser available to kids and other stuff like that. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't know, man.
And I can see the PTSD thing that I can see, because I knew some people that they did suffer from PTSD. Friend of mine that I know that had a really awful thing happen to them when they were deployed into Iraq, and spooky, as in, why am I still alive kind of a thing. And he had some real difficulties dealing with it. And that is something that because he brought a lot of the demons back home, and it ended his marriage and some other stuff. And that really did help him cope, was being able to do that. Not all the time, but when the voices and the demons started talking to him, that was good. I mean, this is like, the point, he was, in his mind, he had issues where his wife would find him up in the middle of the night, only half awake, either thinking that he was still back in the barracks
or on the radio,
or in a foxhole.
Oh, geez.
Or the idea of being, she would find him numerous times where he would have navigated through the house, almost thinking like he was back in Iraq, and he would have navigated to the latrine, and he was relieving himself in different parts of the house that obviously were not the latrine, but he did not know that at that time. So it really, really messed with him. And,
texters coming in here. Someone asked, is the Taste of Colorado canceled? I'm not sure why that would be. I've never heard that. And then Alexa asked, I'm all for legit medical purposes such as seizures and the Charlotte's Web brand. I get it. And then someone sent a picture of looks like Bill Hader smoking a little grass, and it says George in his last day. That could be could be someone else text in, alcohol is way worse. Yeah, okay. I mean, is the argument then that we should outlaw alcohol, or is it that no, we should just let everything? I don't know.
I do agree with them that the alcohol is way worse, and only because my experience through college and beyond is that I never ran into a friend of mine that said, oh boy, I can't believe that I smoked all that marijuana and then got naked in the crowd, or I smoked all that marijuana and then slept with that person. But I have a laundry list of people that imbibed alcohol and then made horrible choices.
I'm sure that alcohol tends to make you way more violent and your judgment bad. But this idea that they put out there that the weed is just, there's no downside. There are no negative effects. You can never become addicted, which, by the way, I don't believe that. I've known dudes that smoke so much marijuana that if you told them you had to go a week without marijuana, they'd hang themselves. There's no chance they could get through the day.
And everything that I've seen is there is a mental addiction component.
That's probably it. Yeah,
not a physical addiction like you have with the alcohol. You don't go through withdrawal, but you do have more anxiety, etc., because you're thinking about the fact that you don't have it. And there absolutely is a mental addiction to the process, and some people, as with any addiction, can break it easier than others. But yeah, absolutely, I believe there's a mental component to that.
I just I don't know where we're going with all this stuff, and at some point it'll be the safe injection nonsense. Here's some other people.
What do they think?
Try CBD for long distance running. Now you're speaking my jam.
The CBD, that's because that's the stuff where they take out the THC, they take out the active ingredient, and you're left with the pain numbing.
If I thought that were true, if I really, and I don't believe that, because you know what happens. I rub a little CBD on the fill in the blank. The next day I show up to drill and they're like, hey, everybody, it's P-test Saturday, which they do all the time. And then I become one of those guys that we drum out of the military all the time, where I'm like, oh, I've suddenly developed a very serious cough. Let me step out to the car to get my inhaler. And then I never come back, or something like that. Or, dude, can you pee for me?
Yeah, and everything that I've seen scientifically is there is no active ingredient in it. And I know some people that have had that has helped a lot with seizures and epilepsy and some other stuff that was really, really severe. But if I was in your position, I would not tempt.
I'm just not going to risk it. Maybe that's my gateway thing, is I CBD something on a joint or something like that. And I'll tell you, in lieu of the run this weekend, and I really do regret not running this weekend because, as you know, I was up in Bozeman. I did this hike up this Sacagawea thing, and it was a lot of elevation gain in a pretty short thing. It wasn't, my pulse was up there. It was good, but I'll tell you where I felt it the next day was my knees. If I could rub some CBD something or other on my knees and it would make them feel okay, I'd be tempted, but not until I'm out of uniform. I would not risk it. It just is. This is why I don't get why soldiers that haven't done it for self-medication, and even then, why they do it. It's like, is it worth it to you? Is that little high worth it to you to give up the ability to put on your country's uniform and serve? Because a lot of them are yes. Billy, did you say after? Yeah. Listen, the other topic I was going to cover, I'm happy, by the way, to talk weed as much as you want, because I am fascinated with it. There's a libertarian aspect of this thing too. I mean, I presume if we had Johnny C on, John Caldera, he would say, yeah, listen, as long as people aren't out there hurting each other, I don't care what consenting adults do behind closed doors, as long as it's on video. No, I don't think he would say that part. But I get all that stuff, but it never stays behind closed doors, right? There's nothing that ever stays behind closed doors. It always leaks out and becomes a problem for the rest of us. Nonetheless, I was going to end up talking to you in part, and we'll do this when we come back, about a dude who got sentenced for threatening the governor, and some thoughts I have on that. And again, super interesting to see what happens here. A conundrum, if you will, I think, for Governor Polis. We'll see how he deals with it. Listen, stick around. We're going to get to Shane and other folks. If you've got a thought on this, man, I'm happy to pursue it with you. 303-696-1971. Start dialing it right now. I'll talk slowly. 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
It's a teenage wasteland right here on George Brauchler Show on 710 KNUS. I still think it's the George Show, but I can't. I've seen so many different things. Listen, we've got calls in here, not necessarily weed related, but a ton of texts that are weed related. And then someone else who tipped us off to the fact that the Taste of Colorado is canceled. We may talk about that as well. I read the article on 9 News. Thank you, listener. Good grief. The reasons why they may interest you. Let's go to Shane from Denver. Shane, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think?
Hey, George, how are you today?
I'm living the dream, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Hey, you and I had a debate a couple weeks ago about the trespassers of January 6th. And what I had mentioned was that the nonviolent trespassers were making a political statement, and they should not receive any jail time and have their freedom taken away. I think I told you that I think they should be ticketed, but nothing more than that. And you mentioned that you did believe that they should receive jail time and take their freedom away. Well, I saw that a federal appellate panel of judges ruled 2-1, the one being an Obama-appointed judge, that those nonviolent protesters should not receive any jail or prison time whatsoever. So I believe the courts actually agreed with me that those people that were nonviolent and did not destroy property were making a political statement. They were not trying to overturn the election. They were trying to make a political statement, such as the BLM protesters did, causing billions of dollars of damage and deaths. And you mentioned that you believed everybody should have their freedom taken. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion is, man, you need to read the opinion, because that's not what the Court of Appeals said. The Court of Appeals did not say prison was not appropriate here. What they said was the sentence that had been issued by the judge in this one particular case for this guy named James Little, that it had sentenced him to prison and a period of probation. And the Court of Appeals struck that down, as you pointed out, 2-1. It wasn't even unanimous, saying, wait a minute, the statute is very clear. It can be one or it can be the other. But because they're alternative sentences, you can't give both. So it wasn't saying that prison isn't appropriate. It just said you can't have both. That's why it struck down the sentence.
Oh, I disagree with you, George. I think you need to reread that. They said that the taking their freedom away, that jail was inappropriate for those that were nonviolent and did not cause property destruction. And whether it was 2-1 or 50-1, that's how the process works. And
but buddy, you're going to have to find me the language. Unless we're talking about two different cases, this little case, I'm going to read you the very last sentence. We cannot divorce section 3561 sub A3's hazy text from that clarifying context. So we listen, vacate little sentence and remand to the district court for resentencing. So the district court's still empowered to sentence him to prison if they want, or to probation. I don't see anything in this opinion, and you must be talking about something else that says anything about what the appropriate sentence is. It just says it can't be both. What are you talking about?
It infers that prison or jail time for these nonviolent offenders was not appropriate. And
how does it infer that? Where does it infer that?
Actually, I don't have the article in front of me because I'm driving into work right now. But when you look at
but buddy, I'm actually looking at the opinion right now. I'm reading the opinion.
Right. Remanded back to the lower court, and with the recommendation from the inference of the entire article that prison time or jail time be redacted. And
what?
This one little case, you use the word little. That's what you do, George. You pick out little words and you try to make it a general statement.
Buddy, I'm not picking out anything except looking at the article. The article references the case against James Little. Am I supposed to look at a different case?
Okay, well, here's the key, is that this one case, it used as an example for other cases. Now, many of these people already served their time, but it recommended that these people should not have received jail or prison time.
That's not what it said. That's not what it said. Buddy, I don't know what you think you're reading in the article. I'm looking at two of them here that Billy found, and it doesn't say they shouldn't receive prison it doesn't say anything like that, or jail. I'm going to read you the very first paragraph of this sentence of the article here that says, court tosses January 6th sentence in ruling that could impact other low-level Capitol riot cases. Here it is. Okay. A federal appeals court on Friday ordered a new sentence for a North Carolina man who pleaded guilty to a petty offense in the Capitol riot, a ruling that could impact dozens of low-level cases. Here's the next sentence. This is number 2. The appeals court in Washington said James Little was wrongfully sentenced for his conviction on a misdemeanor offense to both prison time and probation, which is court-ordered monitoring of defendants who are not behind bars. It doesn't say he shouldn't get prison. It just says the court screwed up in giving him both.
Okay, so a petty offense should result in prison time?
No, buddy, I'm not debating you whether a petty offense should result in prison. I'm debating you on your misstatement of fact and law that somehow a court of appeal said these guys shouldn't receive any incarceration. That didn't happen.
Okay, so George, when you read the article,
I'm not reading the article anymore. Now I'm reading the actual opinion of the people that issued the opinion, the Court of Appeals judges. That's what I'm reading, man.
Right. So they sent it back because the Little was found given a consequence of probation, you said, and prison time.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So being that is the case, they're sending it back. They want to lessen the consequence.
No, buddy, pay attention. They can't issue both prison and probation. That's what the court's saying. It's one or the other. You have to pick one. That's what the opinion says.
Okay. So the inference I got from that article was that prison time, taking their freedom away, was too high of a consequence.
Why did you infer that? Why couldn't you infer that probation was inappropriate?
If you read the article, maybe you're reading the opinion. The article didn't say what the opinion.
Then that's a problem, man. Go to the source. Why couldn't you infer But why couldn't you infer from the court's opinion that probation is too light? The guy should get prison.
The article, if you're inferring from the opinion, okay?
I'm not inferring from the opinion. I'm reading the words of the opinion. That's not an inference.
The opinion is not one sentence long. I'm sure the opinion is longer than that, George. You're cherry picking once again.
Hold on. Let me read you the sentence, but the sentence that sums it up. They always do a little synopsis before they get into the details. Probation and imprisonment are alternative sentences that cannot generally be combined, so the district court could not impose both for Little's petty offense. What am I inferring from that versus what does it actually mean?
Little received a petty offense for going into the Capitol, and he received jail time as a result of that. So are you supportive of petty offense receiving jail time?
But it's not me that's supportive of it. It's the Congress. Because the crime, listen, man, because the crime carries a sentence of, Shane, the sentence to that crime, the sentence for that crime includes up to 6 months in prison, a fine, or both. That's not what I think is appropriate. That's what Congress thought was appropriate when they passed this thing before Little went into the Capitol. Now, he may very well get probation out of this, but the judges at the time thought he deserved prison, and so did Congress who passed this law.
Okay, so petty offenses, you agree with prison time. Is that what you're saying?
Buddy, it really...
I want to hear your opinion.
In my opinion, the law says you can get up to 6 months of prison. That's what it says.
Okay, is jaywalking a petty offense?
I can't imagine there's a federal jaywalking statute.
Okay, well, I bet you could imagine it because jaywalking in a local law is a petty offense. Isn't that correct?
No, I don't know that it's a petty offense at all, man.
Okay, so what is it then?
I don't even know that it's a crime anymore.
So what is the consequence for a petty offense in the state of Colorado?
It depends on what the petty offense is, but you could get up to 6 months of jail. There are some first-class petty offenses that you can get up to jail. Yeah.
So are you supportive of that?
I am.
Okay, so you're supportive of guys with petty offenses going to jail for 6 months, losing their freedom.
Depending upon what they did in committing the crime. Brother, I'm not saying it's a mandatory sentence, but you're asking me to say do I think it's appropriate for some petty offense convictions to result in incarceration? Yes, I do. And I'm not alone. The legislature believes that's true. The governor who signed it into law thinks it's true. Judges who have sentenced people to jail for its violation think it's true. This isn't George Brauchler's view of the planet Earth. This is what is widely accepted as the law in the state of Colorado. If you have a beef with that, then change the damn law. But don't call in here and misquote an opinion because you inferred something from an article. You're just wrong, Shane. I think you want to come from a good place, but buddy, you have to actually read the source document, not someone's impression of it, and then interpret that.
George, here's the key though. my call was about the article, not about the actual opinion from the court. I haven't read the opinion.
Then who cares what the article says? Who cares what the article says?
The article inferred that the jail time, prison time was too much for this low.
You're going to have to find me that article, buddy. I haven't read a single article that provides that quote unquote inference.
Okay.
I'm looking at the AP article, man. What article were you looking at?
AP article. And
Yeah, show me the language that says it infers it was too harsh.
I'll send it to your email.
No, I have it. I'm looking at it in front of me.
Maybe you're looking at a different article, but this one that I read definitely inferred that this low level offender.
Maybe Shane, you're reading something in there that you see that wasn't intended. Possible?
And I would say the same thing for you on that there, George.
Except I'm reading the opinion, man. I can't infer it wrong. I'm reading you the words of the opinion.
I think you're cherry picking the opinion is what you're doing.
Buddy, here's our deal. You go ahead and print off this 15-page opinion. If you find the language that supports your quote unquote inference, you call back in tomorrow. We'll put you on the air to have this discussion. But having just skimmed this thing, I feel real confident we're not going to hear from you.
Okay, George. So I want to tell you one last thing here. So anyway, the federal courts, they determined before this appellate court that these people that trespassed, that were nonviolent and did not destroy property, should lose their freedom based on petty offenses or low-level misdemeanors, right? That's not done in ordinary law. You tell me how many people get petty offenses and get jail time. So the bottom line is...
Man, it depends on what the petty offense is, doesn't it? Doesn't it have to depend on what the petty offense is? And by the way, that's a plea bargain. That's a plea bargain, dude.
No, George, because here's the thing. The petty offenses that were chosen to be followed through with losing of freedoms for these protesters January 6th, okay, they cherry-picked that. And what I'm trying to say is that they're not cherry-picking anything else on the federal court level. They're sure as heck not cherry-picking Biden. Okay.
No. Just to jump into this, just to give, because we have this issue here about what petty offenses are. Examples of some petty offenses could be minor drug offenses, drunk driving, shoplifting, theft, assault, battery, vandalism, and some sex crimes, along with resisting arrest. Now continue the discussion about whether or not those should possibly include some jail time.
He pleaded guilty to a plea bargain, man. The petty offense isn't what he did. It was the plea bargain off of what he was accused of.
Right. Bottom line is they found him guilty of a petty offense. He received the consequences where his freedom was taken away.
He pleaded guilty to it, man. He pleaded guilty to it.
Is overlooking millions of dollars that Biden and his son received. They're overlooking all of that. They're not pursuing any of that.
Shane,
my problem, George,
Shane, this is a complete deviation from your point, which is the Court of Appeals said that prison wasn't appropriate. What do you think? Now that we've dismantled that argument, you now want to shift to, well, they shouldn't go to jail because of some other stuff.
No, you didn't dismantle the argument. You cherry-picked the opinion of the court.
No. By cherry-picking the opinion, you mean I read the opinion. Yes, I cherry-picked it by reading it.
You read one sentence of what, a 20-page opinion?
But I promise you, Shane, and I'm good for my word, man, read this entire opinion. If you find language supportive of this cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs idea that the court is weighing in on the fact that this guy should not get prison, that's what they're saying, which, by the way, courts don't do that. They don't weigh in and say things like that, not in this circumstance. Then you call back in tomorrow and you can read the words from the opinion that support that.
Okay, I'll summarize my call right now.
It's too late to summarize it, buddy. It's been 20 minutes.
Well, let me do one sentence just like you did from the court opinion, okay? Here's what I got, okay? So my point was in the previous call was that the court system is not consistent. We're looking at the federal system. The federal system persecuted, and I use that word on purpose, the January 6th nonviolent protesters and gave them prison time for a petty offense. And yet the same federal system is not doing anything about Hunter Biden's laptop, and they're not doing anything to pursue Biden and his charges. He doesn't even have charges yet.
Yeah,
okay?
The judges, as you know, man, the judges aren't in charge of that. They're in charge of sentencing. They're not in charge of the Hunter Biden investigation. So if you just want to blanket say, hey, federal government in this one part of it's bad, that means the federal government over here is doing something bad and they're inconsistent, man, you can't have an argument that way. The judges aren't in charge of that. And by the way, something is being done.
The federal criminal justice system, let's put it that way, okay? And no,
are you including the judges?
I'm including the whole system, okay?
Yeah.
My point is the whole system is not consistent. And because it's not consistent, the federal system, we have unfairness. And I don't understand why you don't pursue that more on your show, George, that how come the federal system can be so persecute the January 6th nonviolent protesters so much and absolutely fail to pursue the illegalities of the Biden administration. I understand it comes from, and I understand it's not the judges that are doing
man, sometimes sentencing takes place to do a couple different things. One is rehabilitation. One is punishment. Those are legit purposes of sentencing. Another legitimate purpose of sentencing is to send the message to the rest of the planet Earth. If you do this, we are so offended and pissed off by this. If you do this, we're going to sentence you harshly. That could very well be one of the reasons that judges in this case have sent these folks to be incarcerated. You don't like it? I get it. But to suggest that somehow it delegitimizes the system, and you keep saying nonviolent protesters, you know what? You sound like an apologist for BLM over the George Floyd summer, because that's all they said too. Nonviolent protesters, nonviolent protesters. That's what it sounds like, man.
Okay, so you mentioned to set an example to make sure that others in the future don't follow the same course of action that is illegal. Okay, what about the illegal issues that happen with this fraudulent election? Okay, one example.
Oh my God.
Sending millions and millions and millions of paper ballots to mail-in ballots to people, some of these people received 5 ballots from various family members, filled it out themselves, and they were not checked.
It's not fraud, man. There's been no proof that it's been fraudulent, man. There's no violation of the law. There's no violation of the law there, man.
Where did the state legislatures vote to approve that? That was approved by executives that were not voted upon.
That's not true, man.
So that is against the Constitution. How is that not true?
Who says it's against the Constitution? Point to the constitutional section, man.
I want to say
don't want to say. Do us a favor, Shane. Do all your homework before you call in to accuse me of something, and then back it up with your words. Buddy, I'm sorry. I've taken you so long. No one will hear me of just having cut you off, but I got to cut you off because we got to cut away to a break. Man, if you're going to call up and take me on, and I love that, by the way, I'm happy to have the respectful debate with you. Please bring friggin' facts, man, instead of this. I inferred from an article where no words could ever infer this, that this is what they mean. And I think it's this part of bring yo facts, bring yo law. I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, but it's not going to be based on a debate that starts with the Court of Appeals said that prison wasn't appropriate and then downslides into what about all the illegal ballots that were sent out in violation of the Constitution? Come on. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
How about that, Mr. Funk?
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, going right to the phone lines. Russ from Denver, you're on 710. What do you think, Russ? Hello, Russ. Russ, did I not press the button correctly? I feel like I did. Russ from Denver. Nobody can hear you, my friend. If this is a protest call, it's working. Russ, what do we need to do to get you on? Oh, buddy, you probably ran away to go get your fix of coffee or something like that. Just give us a call back when you get a chance. Hey, that last segment, not really where I was going with the whole marijuana thing. Lots of people texting in about the alcohol and the weed, but then some people texting in about this stuff too. For instance, I think you need to reread it. I think you need to reread the reread. Well, I think you need to reread the reread, which is reread by the reader, which is laugh out loud funny. Someone texted in also, federal petty is different than municipal petty, which is probably what he's more familiar with. I think that's true as well. There's a first-class petty offense in the state of Colorado that used to be punishable by up to 6 months. I don't know what the legislature's probably put 6 minutes in there now, knowing this legislature. Here's another one. Did Russ called back, didn't he, Billy? Oh, that's a bummer. The entire MAGA cult is built on, quote, inference and has ruined a party I used to be in, but can't anymore. Someone else, oh my God, stop. I get it. I understand. Here is, remind this guy that Biden has a special prosecutor. Yeah, I don't know if that's the answer, but it is something. They are doing something. People like your caller that likes to infer things that don't exist reinforces my decision to go unaffiliated. I have no desire to be associated with people like that in any way. I don't think it makes Shane a bad guy, but I do think it makes Shane emblematic probably of a bunch of people out there who are so desperate to find a confirmation for whatever it is they're bringing to the table, that they look for it everywhere. Like my guess is Shane didn't read the article. Shane read the title that was chosen for even the author doesn't write the title. Court tosses January 6th sentence in ruling that could impact other low-level capital riot cases. It's 4 paragraphs. And there just isn't anything that says that the guy shouldn't get incarcerated. I mean, they quote from they cherry pick from the Court of Appeals decision. And that part I just don't get. I don't get the idea that within these first 4 paragraphs, the language that's chosen is cherry picked nor mine. Like in reading the opinion, and I scanned it, I don't see a single reference to the validity of the sentence based on whether it is justice or whether it should be or whether it is historically anomalistic. I mean, could a court of appeals overturn a lower court sentence? Sure, it could. Could it find that it was excessive if that argument was raised? Yeah, sure, it could under certain specific limitations. But this idea that this opinion stands for the proposition that prison isn't appropriate, my God, why wouldn't they just say, we hereby dictate that the sentence must be probation or a fine and remand it for that? It doesn't. It just says, hey, court, you screwed up. It can't be both. It just can't be both. But this may be, in a way, and a texter hit upon this, touches upon what we talked about yesterday, which is we're in a post-fact world politically, where the facts don't matter. It's the feelings, it's the inferences, it's all the other stuff that drives this. Listen, we got more to talk about here. And by the way, I'm happy to keep up the conversation on the devil's lettuce and this topic as well. You give us a call at 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. You can keep the text going too. You're listening to The George Show at 710 KNUS.
How about that, Mr. Funk?
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. You've made it through the halfway point of the Tuesday show. We are quickly running out of August here. By Friday, I'll be out of the saddle on Friday. It'll be the 1st of September, if you can imagine. That has fall written all over it, although 3 great big balls of fire are in our pictogram from our friends at Denver 7, suggesting that for their foreseeable future, which is only 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Thursday, it's going to be hot. No clouds, no rain, no thunderstorms, 85, 95, and 97. Little cross-country race for Little G-Man this afternoon. My hope is it's cool because, man, when it's hot, they're slower. I don't know how else to describe that for the runners, but they just tend to be a little bit off their game when it's super hot outside. Hey, here's what we talked about. Started talking about the wacky tobacco in the last hour. I can't even tell you why. Other than that, I had some friends say, hey, we're going to try to get into some of this business stuff here. And oh, by the way, I use CBD for this. And it turned into a discussion about that. But then the conversation got changed a bit with, and I don't think we had Russ ever make it on, but Russ had some thoughts. But we had Shane call in and misdescribe an opinion by the DC Court of Appeals in a 2-1 decision that rejected the sentences for a guy named James Little would impact a bunch of other folks that were sentenced for trespassing the Capitol back during the January 6th riots, in part because they received sentences of prison for like 60 days and then probation for several years. This is going to put the courts in a position to have to make a decision of one or the other. Hard to know which direction they'll go. And frankly, given that these guys were already sentenced, I don't know if they were remanded unless they were kept out on bail on an appeal. Some of them may have already killed their number. If they killed that number, then they're just going to get probation and move on. The others, hard to know. Shane's position largely, and it shifted over the course of a lengthy conversation, shifted from the Court of Appeals said that prison wasn't appropriate, which is just laughably and provably false, to a discussion of, well, hey, what about all the unconstitutional multiple ballots that got sent to people? Also not a constitutional violation. There is no section of the Constitution that governs that. And maybe that's because elections aren't run by the federal government. Having said that, it does lead to this other discussion of something that happened. And I'm interested to know your thoughts because it touches on politics and it touches on justice. There is a story of a guy named Jeremy, bizarre spelling, Jeromie. I should have said unique spelling, Rose. He's 42 years old. Dude pleaded guilty earlier to retaliation against an elected official and retaliation against a prosecutor for threats that he made. And so, for instance, to Governor Polis, he called in the front desk line back on June the 20th, and he left voicemails that are quoted in this article from the Denver Gazette as, I'm gonna effing fire a whole bunch of rounds right in your effing head, right in your effing house. And then you'll see, then you'll understand. Now, he said he left that voicemail for Polis because he no longer qualified for food stamps. Now, it kind of doesn't matter. I can see, for instance, where he would say, hey, I'm doing this because you signed into law the most liberal let's kill babies abortion law in the history of the state of Colorado, and perhaps the most liberal one on the planet Earth. I could see that too. I could see him saying, hey, you're coming after my Tabor refunds by lying to us on the ballot or whatever it is. But it kind of doesn't matter what his motivation was, does it? Guy leaves this message for Governor Polis. Now, you may be sitting out there thinking, yeah, but it's Governor Polis, man. One, he must get these calls all the time, not like this. And two, it's Governor Polis. He's got it coming. Now, if you're thinking like that, you're missing the point of this whole thing. And that is, should we have laws that prohibit folks from threatening other elected officials for actions they took under the color of their official authority? I mean, should we do that? There's another one where this guy, same case, he threatened an Adams County prosecutor. He left a voicemail on March the 12th for this prosecutor saying, if I ever see him again, I probably will beat the hell out of him, if not kill him. So he went into court earlier this week and pleaded guilty to 2 felony charges: retaliation against an elected official and retaliation against a prosecutor. Those are both low-level felonies, like F6 for sure on the elected official. I think it's got to be something similar for a prosecutor. Guy ended up getting sentenced to probation, 2 concurrent 4-year probationary sentences. Now, those are conditioned upon him getting a mental health evaluation and complying with mental health treatment. And I guess what I'm wondering is, do you agree with this? And I don't mean just the sentence. Do you agree with the fact that we have laws that felonize threats against elected officials, prosecutors, judges? Do you agree with that? And if that's true, should these kinds of threats be met with just straight up probation? Is this worse or less worse than the other things for which people get sentenced to prison? I don't know, man. I'll be honest, I'm disappointed. And this has nothing to do with my love or support for Jared Polis. But if you go out of your way to threaten a public official, Republican, Dem, or otherwise, and say things like, it's one thing, by the way, to threaten someone and to threaten their life. It's another thing to say, I'm going to fire, a bunch of rounds right in your effing house. That's where you get my attention, man. You threaten the individual, that's bad enough. You threaten their family, you threaten their home, you should go to jail or prison. Now, clearly this guy's got mental health issues, right? Clearly. Not enough to keep him from looking up a phone number and dialing the digits and leaving a threatening voicemail. But this guy needs mental health treatment, but that doesn't mean he can't get it after he goes to jail or while he's in prison. But how do you let someone engage in this behavior towards a prosecutor, an elected official? Hell, it could have been a judge, and just say, you get probation. It feels incredibly weak to me. And again, we should be talking about trying to protect our institutions. Instead, it feels like we are chiseling away at their legitimacy and protecting them. And both sides are doing it. I mean, this is a Democrat prosecutor with a Democrat victim. And the answer was, well, let's plead you to 2 low-level felonies and we'll put you on probation. I'm sorry, man. If somebody threatened a judge in my jurisdiction or some other jurisdiction and I was the special on it, you're going to be incarcerated. It's going to happen because that message has to be sent loud and clear. And that gets us back to the question Shane asked. Should these people be going to prison for a petty offense? And the answer that I give is yes, they should. However long, doesn't matter to me. I'm not saying lock them up for the rest of their lives, but should people who went into the Capitol that day, and I know there's a bunch of you out there who are clinging to the idea like they were suckered in there, like somehow Ray Epps was the protest whisperer, and he got into someone's ear, and then all of these hundreds of people just simply, they couldn't help themselves. They thought they were on a freaking tour of the Capitol. And when the cops opened the door, rather than resist it being beaten down, well, they're inviting them in as well. These were people who just thought this is so fun and neat. We're here on a day that the presidential election is supposed to be certified just to look around and to wave and to maybe defecate in someone's office or steal a computer or put our feet up on the speaker's desk or all of these things. And it's just so innocuous. Nope. You must go to jail. The message has to be sent. And it's not a message sent to conservatives, folks. That's the problem. It's a message sent to America and the world. If you mess with the institution at that level, given all the other options we have out there to control government, then we're going to take away your liberty. Could be a day, could be a week, could be a month. I don't really care. But you have to go to jail. And for this guy right here, this sentence is weak and it sends the wrong message. If it was worthy of felonizing this guy for, then it was worthy of incarceration. And I'll go one step farther. And I don't know this clown's background. It looks like he had even made a threat earlier. What does it say right here? Blah, blah, blah. Like he had maybe made a threat against someone else previously. Get rid of the felon. Who cares if he's a convicted felon? That only matters if you're trying to take away his right to possess a firearm, which you can accomplish through your fancy red flag law, right? Especially if there's mental illness on the table. Give him a misdemeanor. Don't make him a convicted felon. Give him a misdemeanor and send him to jail for 90 days. It's not the classification of charge that will never deter anyone or protect. I just don't believe that anymore. It's the length and severity and assuredness of the sentence. All of this stuff is part of the destruction of the institutions. And I'm just going to recap for you some of the stuff we've talked about here. We no longer protect elected officials from threats. We treat those like they're DUIs. Hell, you get more jail time for a DUI than you would get for threatening the governor or threatening a prosecutor. That's wrong. That's dumb. That's not good. How about another one? Defund the FBI. The FBI is rotten to the core. You've heard those words spoken on these airwaves by callers, and my guess is some hosts. Defund the FBI. You heard Shane, the whole criminal justice system at the federal level is corrupt and needs to be done under. I had someone text in yesterday, can we impeach the judge on Trump's DC case? For what? Is she biased? I don't know. Should she be recused? Maybe. But impeached for what? We are blowing up our sense of government. And we are tearing this country down institution by institution. I want the institutions held accountable. I want there to be transparency. I'm a huge fan of Dave Magoya and the Denver and Colorado Springs Gazette for continuing to pull back each layer of that onion for the judicial branch, for accountability, not to blow it up, but to make it responsive to us. This isn't about making anything responsive to us. You got Vivek Ramaswamy saying, I'm going to destroy the FBI, or I'm going to tear down the FBI, and then we're going to put something else in its place, which sounds remarkably like the FBI. What are we doing? 303-696-1971. We're going to get right to the phone lines here. Robert from Littleton, you're on 710. Robert, I'm sorry, I just had a little bit of a screed there. What do you think?
Good morning, sir, and feel free to vent your spleen if that's what you need to do on a Tuesday morning.
Thanks, man.
Look, man, I'm a pretty simple guy. All right, justice is supposed to be equally applied and blindly applied. Now, I understand that that's kind of a pie in the sky type of thing, and that's never going to happen in practice. But I believe that everybody needs to be subject to the law. Everybody needs to be held accountable under the law. And if you break the law, you need to be punished or face the consequences for having done that. That is appropriate to the level of which whatever law you've broken. Okay. Now, obviously, somebody stealing a candy bar does not mean 10 years in prison. Nor does somebody killing somebody mean 30 days in the clink and then you're walking around on the street. Whatever level of punishment is appropriate to the law that you've broken, and again, there is some certain subjectivity to it based on your criminal history, et cetera, that has to be taken into account. But you should have to face the consequences for breaking that law. And I don't really give two poops who you are. If you break the law, you need to be held accountable for it. Now, I do believe that under certain circumstances, if police officers or judges or district attorneys or elected officials, for that matter, break the law, I think that they should be held to a higher
Amen.
account,
Amen. Agreed.
Because
totally
they
agreed.
are the ones that we entrust to not only make the laws but to enforce the laws.
You're absolutely
and
right.
to issue, et cetera. That's a whole nother thing. Now, all that having been said, look, do I think Trump probably committed crimes? Yeah, I do. Do I think that Joe Biden probably committed crimes? Yeah, I do. Do I think that one is more likely to be held accountable, at least in our current climate, than the other? I absolutely do. And that's the problem. It lends too much credence to this notion that so many people have of a two-tier justice system. And I kind of buy into that to a certain extent.
What are the tiers?
When we see people that very obviously appear to have broken laws.
Well, Robert, what are the tiers? You said there's a two-tiered system. Describe the two tiers. Who are they?
But okay, let me rephrase. It seems like certain people are treated more favorably than others, where some are gone after, and I'm just using Trump as the example. This is not just exclusive to, obviously, to Donald Trump or anybody else at the moment. When it looks like you have a pretty massive push on a number of fronts to hold Trump accountable for whatever crimes he may have committed, okay, and rightfully so, okay, And it looks like there is a big push to hold people involved in the January 6th riots accountable for whatever laws they may have broken. And again, rightfully so. But then we see people like Hunter Biden, again, just as an example, or Hillary Clinton, or other notable Democratic figures that appear to have broken the law pretty much in plain sight and then thumb their nose at the justice system because they knew that they were protected. And they faced little, if any, accountability whatsoever. That's where people get the notion of the two-tiered justice system. And there is a certain legitimacy to that view. Now, look, did Hillary Clinton actually break laws? I couldn't say for sure. It appears that way. And then when it also appears, and you'll notice a recurring theme in the use of the term appears, when it appears that that person was treated favorably, it makes it very difficult for a large portion of our society to have faith in our justice system. And that's the problem.
Listen, there's some wisdom in this, Robert, in this way. I agree that the optics piece is the problem, right? Like you hit it the nail on the head. It appears that Hillary has committed these crimes largely with impunity, despite the fact that it was President Trump who had the DOJ under his thumb when they could have, would have, should have investigated her to do some more stuff. And so whether she committed it or not, it kind of doesn't matter anymore because folks just presume she got treated differently than, say, Trump did or someone else. And it's the same thing with Biden. Folks just say, hey, look, Biden's not being treated this way. But I'm interested in the two-tiered system because you're not the first person to say it. In fact, texters are texting in right here saying things like, what is it? George, you have to admit, even you can see that we're dealing with the two-tier justice system at the top level. It's coming out of the White House. But I just want to know what someone's perception of those tiers is, because I do think that there is a legitimate argument that we have a two-tiered system, but it isn't Republican Democrat. It is politically elite and the rich and the rest of us. That's how the system works. If you are politically elite, you get treated way differently. And I think what we're seeing here is President Trump is part of the political elite and he's rich, but for the first time, maybe he's not being treated differently than other people that would find themselves in the same situation. What do you think of that?
No, and I would absolutely agree with that. I think that, again, just keeping Donald Trump as the example for the conversation.
Yeah.
I think that Donald Trump has been so well politically connected for so very long because he made the right amount of contributions to the right people at the right time in the right place that he was able to probably, if not break the law, then at least skirt the edges of it pretty thinly without having to face any real accountability for any of the things that he has done over the years. And now we find ourselves in a situation where, I don't know, chickens are coming home to roost. I can't really think of a better term off the top of my head for it. And he is probably, and I say probably because, nobody knows for sure, but I think he is probably going to be held to account for a variety of things that he has done, not just recently, but probably over the past 10 or 15 years, because I think that there are some other things that are more than likely going to come out about it.
You go ahead, Robert.
My only problem with that is, should justice be applied equally across the board, regardless of who you are? And in theory, yes, absolutely, it should be. And when it is not, that's when you get upset. And I think the other part of this, though, is that you will see people on the, I'll say far right, okay, who say Donald Trump's a victim. No, he's not. Donald Trump's a victim of himself. All right, let's just be freaking honest about it here. He's not a victim. He did what he did. If you can prove it in the court of law, that is what it is. But you'll have those people that say he's a victim and Hillary's the real criminal. Okay, just again using this for example. Yeah. And then you'll have folks on the left that say Hillary was just a paragon of virtue. The epitome of perfection, and Donald Trump is the worst thing that's ever happened in the world. And neither one of those things are entirely true. But even further, taking that one step further, here's, to my mind, the real problem is the people that know Donald Trump almost certainly committed crimes and don't care. And then you have the people that know almost certainly that Hillary or Joe or pick a person committed a crime and don't care. As long as their political enemies are punished, they are willing to excuse at every level the crimes of their own side. That's the real problem. When we have people that are willing to excuse illegal activity, crimes, treason, whatever, because it's their guy or gal that did it, our justice system's screwed.
Well, yeah, Robert, thank you for that great phone call. I appreciate that, man. Thoughtful on there. And there's a lot I agree with, some of which I don't. But towards the end there, man, I think you hit upon something. And it was the combination of this two-tier justice system with the, hey, we see our guy getting gored, but their guy not. And then you said, hey, the worst thing is when you see crime go unprosecuted or unpunished. I agree with you. So I guess part of the question has to be, let's say the Hillary thing should have been prosecuted and it wasn't. Does that mean then we just shrug off what Trump has done and go, well, because we didn't do Hillary, we obviously shouldn't go after Trump? Or, well, now we have to go after Biden because we're going after Trump. I mean, this is a tough road to hoe, man. A tough road to hoe. I don't know why I went road there. Tough road to hoe. But my point and my question are the same, and that is this it now? Are there any institutions left that we're not willing to tear down in the name of some ideological vengeance or revenge? 'Cause that's where we're at right now. And the Dems, they're to blame for this too. This isn't a Republican Democrat thing. This is a political elite thing. I mean, this sentence of this guy who has obvious mental health issues to just probation plus an order to go to mental health, not good enough. Not good enough. You threaten the governor to the extent that you're going to force this guy to become a convicted felon for the rest of his life. It's that big a deal, but you don't sentence him to jail. I think we got it backwards, folks. Defund the FBI, tear down the whole justice system. You hear it from the left too. Well, we need more Supreme Court justices because this Supreme Court is corrupted. We need more justices. Impeach Clarence Thomas, impeach the judge. I mean, there's nothing left. All we do is when we don't like something the government's done, our answer is, well, we've got to destroy it or we've got to destroy that person. I don't get it. 303-696-1971. Well, we got full lines. I got to cut away for a break here. I want to tell you about Dan Caplis real quick, though. Dan Caplis is a guy who I've been bragging on now for many, many moons for a couple good reasons. And I want to remind you about a couple of them. This isn't just some guy who I met through the radio. This isn't just some guy who pays to have advertising. It's not like that. I worked for Dan before I ever did radio with Dan. In fact, I had been doing radio, other stuff before I met Dan on that other station. And then I ended up getting hired by Dan, and I worked with them for darn near a couple of years, learning how to do civil cases. And you learn a lot about a person when you're in the practice of law. And if you're an attorney out there, you know what I'm talking about. You learn about their ethical boundaries. You learn about their passions. You learn about the things they're willing to do on behalf of clients. And I'm telling you, this is the kind of guy that is willing to, if you get him signed up with you, and he just takes the righteous cases, folks, all you have to be is a real victim, right? All you have to be is the victim of someone's negligence, recklessness, or in some cases, intentional conduct. And you get this guy on your team, and there really aren't any limits to what he'll do ethically to get you into the end zone. And the end zone isn't make your life pain-free again. That's not possible. But maybe it's getting you the money necessary to put you in a place where you can get the comforts, the rehab, the treatments, whatever it takes to try to get you as close to where you were before you became a victim. Give him a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551. He and Bobber can also be found. Bobber Wahid is his partner. I worked with Bobber for a couple years too. You can check him out at dancaplis.com. That's Dan, the traditional spelling, Caplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, law.com. When we come back, Dave, Joe, Lynn, everybody else. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, which started as a discussion of what took place in Adams County earlier this week. And just to remind you, if you're just tuning in, there was a guy that was convicted through his own plea of guilty to 2 felonies One is retaliation against an elected official for threats he made. And he did threaten to shoot bullets into the head of and the house of Governor Jared Polis. And he also threatened a prosecutor, pled guilty to 2 felonies, and was sentenced to probation with some mental health treatment. I'm a bit aghast by this. I don't know the extra facts. And so I leave open the possibility I've completely misunderstood the rationale behind this, but the felony convictions are meaningless. If the goal here is to try to deprive this guy of firearms by making him a convicted felon, one, somebody ought to give AG Phil Weiser a call, because he's a dude that advocated for returning guns to tens of thousands of convicted felons across Colorado. But more than that, they have access to their special due process light red flag law that they could have sought on this guy, unless this is a tacit confirmation that it's ineffective. I don't know. Nonetheless, what bothers me about it is it feels like a probationary sentence doesn't send the right message. The message ought to be, you go to jail, you go to prison. Whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor, who cares, right? So that's the conversation we've had, is on the destruction of these institutions by both sides, Republicans and Democrats. And it feels like the answer is, if we don't like what you're doing, you should be torn down. You should be ripped limb from limb. You are rotten to the core. Now, there have been some very measured responses to that. I really appreciated Robert's call as well. I think we're about to get another one right here at 303-696-1971. It's Joe from Arvada. Joe, how are you?
Well, good morning, George. George, let's start with the name. The Federal Bureau of Investigation. Bureaus are for communist politburos. We don't need no stinking bureau. We need a federal police. I agree with that. It needs to be torn down from the top down. James Comey, Christopher Wray, uber liberal communists.
Uber liberal?
They should not be.
Why in the world did Trump appoint an uber liberal communist?
Well, I will tell you this. There was some suspect decision making there. He took advice, just like Abraham Lincoln. He took it from the left. Bad decision. I will admit that.
Hold on. You think Trump appointed? You think he appointed Christopher Wray because he was taking liberals' advice?
Yes.
Who was the liberals?
And the idiots running the rest of the FBI.
Hold on. So he listened to the FBI about who to appoint to be their director?
I think so.
Why in the world would anybody do that?
Now, I'll tell you what. He also listened to the moron Chris Christie, who recommended
uber liberal
Christopher Wray. Yes, uber liberal. Mm-hmm. Another thing. The FBI, everyone says the rank and file is so, good. No, it isn't. In fact, just I believe it was this week, one of the FBI was arrested for being a pedophile.
Wait a minute. A member of the FBI was convicted of a crime. That means the entire FBI is a bunch of pedophiles.
Not convicted, arrested. Here's the thing.
Wait a minute. That's even worse.
That isn't the first one. It's a rampant problem in the FBI. The FBI is a bunch of,
hold on. Pukes. Joe, are you impugning the FBI based off of allegations against a member of the FBI?
Okay, let me give you another example.
Are the accusations of wrongdoing enough to characterize someone?
It isn't an accusation. It is a fact.
Hold on. It's an arrest. You said he wasn't convicted. Are the allegations facts?
I'm telling you, this is a pedophile in the FBI.
He might be, but right now you've told me, I don't know anything about this case, that he stands merely accused. Is being accused enough to make it a fact? Asking for a guy who's watching Donald Trump.
Okay, let's go ahead and then give you your media spin. The allegation of being a pedophile.
Why do you do that with your voice? Why do you do that with your voice?
Because that's the media spin. This guy is a flat pedophile.
Just the allegations then are factual. You believe those allegations?
There's enough and by the way, overwhelming evidence.
How do you know that?
Well, it's been presented and
by whom? Is it by the media?
He was busted by a sheriff. A U.S. sheriff.
A U.S. sheriff? There's no such thing.
Well, okay. I don't know I don't know which county he was a sheriff of. All right. What I mean is it was in the United States.
Okay.
George.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. I just want to make sure I understand. This guy, in your mind, is guilty of this based off of the accusation.
Just a moment. There's more Gestapo action by the FBI.
Okay.
Well, how about when they come into they arrest a gentleman for protesting in front of an abortion clinic, and then they storm his household. The troops go in, stick their guns in the family's face, all for what? Some individual who's protesting legally an FBI, or I'm sorry, an abortion clinic. Why? Because, yes, the two-tier justice system is in effect. The left wants the Gestapo to go and stop protesting of killing babies. So what they do is they send their Gestapo henchmen in to arrest people who they don't like.
So just to be clear, the FBI, I just want to make sure I understand. The FBI is communist and corrupt because they have the word bureau in them. And also every single one of them is bad. Thus, and the evidence of that, hang on, you did. You said the rank and file are not good.
Rename the FBI. I did not say that it's bad because it's the name bureau. I said we don't need bureaus. We don't need bureaus in the United States. We need police. Yes, we don't need a bureaucrat.
What do you think the word bureau
the
does to their authority?
Well, I think one thing it does is it makes them entirely left-leaning
because of the word bureau. Because of the word bureau.
Because bureau implies that they're running this country.
Why does bureau imply that? Why does bureau imply that?
Well, what is a bureau? The bureau is responsible, just like the Politburo.
Buddy, how about the Bureau? Hang on, Joe. How about the Bureau of Land Management? Are they running the country?
That is another good example that needs to be wiped from the scourge of the planet.
How about
That's right.
How about the Colorado Bureau of Investigation? And frankly, every state has a Bureau of Investigation. Are they all communist and left-leaning?
Again, I do think there needs to be an office of investigation. We don't need no stinking bureau.
Name of the organization dictates the direction that they go. Interesting.
Let's just go ahead and call it the Communist Bureau of Investigation. So we can all be communal people. We can have
Joe, do you see that? So the use of the term bureau now is
Politburo.
Is all because of communists?
Well,
the use of the term bureau.
George, let me just help you out. Even here in downtown Denver, we have a declared communist now in the House of Representatives. Actively, he comes from Aurora, by the way. Comes to use the communist moniker. He's actually going ahead.
What does that have to do with your point about the FBI? Good God, man.
Because what's happening in this country, George, is that these people are taking over the leadership of these bureaus.
What bureau is that guy taking over?
Look, the Bureau of the Colorado Legislature. That's what he's taking over.
Buddy, now you're sounding ridiculous. Joe, from time to time you have good points. Today just wasn't one of them, man. I appreciate the phone call. But, buddy, this idea that because it has the word bureau in it, and there was a guy that was arrested and accused of being a pedophile, even though that's not a real charge, I'm sure he was accused. I'm telling you, every single branch of the government, every single industry, everything, there are going to be bad actors in it, but you don't paint the entire organization with that brush. And Joe, I'm a little amazed that on mere allegations, you have convicted this guy, because there's a dude, you drink his bathwater, that stands accused in 4 different places of crimes, but we need to presume that guy innocent of those charges. And I know you do. But this idea that the word bureau somehow suggests that they're left-leaning, buddy, that just is a kooky argument. You've done better in the past. I know you'll do better in the future. We're going to cut away for a break. Not until I tell you, though, about QC Kinetix. These are the folks that make some of the pain that you feel sometimes from listening to certain callers on the show. You can make that pain go away through something called regenerative medicine. These are the folks that take a needle, they put it in you, they pull you out of you, they put it into you in another place. And this regenerative medicine thing, it's real. It's going crazy everywhere. Why not go with the experts, border to border, coast to coast, and they have local people right here to answer all your questions about how it works. Don't go under the knife. Don't jam an endless supply of pills into your gullet. Instead, call these people, let them answer all of your questions, and then go get rid of that pain so you can enjoy the world. 303-899. I'm sorry. Good Lord. 303-900-8986. Wow. 303-900-8986. You know what? I better say it again. 303-900-8986. And just in case you weren't listening, 303-900-8986. You can also check them out at qckinetics.com. That's QC, the letters. Kinetix begins with a K, ends with an X. qckinetics.com. When we come back, Lynn, Joe's line is open. 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler on the George Show 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, rounding out the 8 o'clock hour. Let's get right back to the phone lines. There's one open, 303. You know the number, 696-1971. You probably have the tattoo. Lynn from Lakewood, you're on 710. What do you think, Lynn?
Hi. Yes, I was listening to this conversation, and then something hit me. We're talking about the January 6th, where the riots went into the Capitol and destroyed stuff. They got put in jail, and they're still, half of them are still sitting without even a trial yet. What do we do in Colorado? We have the George Floyd thing. They come in here, they destroy businesses, they mark up the Capitol, they destroy, if they could get inside, they probably would have gone inside and destroyed that. They had set fires everywhere. What do? No, we don't put them in jail. We give them $44 million back.
Who got $44 million bucks?
On the news this morning.
No, I don't think it was $44 million.
Yeah, they said $44 million. They're giving them back.
I think it was 4.7, I think.
Well, even that. Why are we giving them anything? They destroyed our Denver. It looked like a war zone.
Yeah, Lynn, a couple thoughts. Hold on, couple thoughts. One, I don't think half of the people that have been accused of crimes in the January 6th thing are sitting in jail, absent any sort of due process. I don't think that that's true.
Well, I've heard some of them have been in there a year since it happened.
Maybe I don't know the answer to that.
And they haven't even been to trial yet.
Yeah, couple things. One is whatever takes place in Washington, D.C. with those federal officials is completely disconnected from decisions of the local Denver Police Department and the Denver District Attorney in this case. Although I know there were hundreds of people cited and arrested. That's why we got to this settlement. Remember, there were hundreds of people picked up on curfew violations and all of that. They sued and the city caved in because it's a very woke government and they're not going to push back. But to suggest that there was nothing done to them isn't true. But your complaint but your complaint can't be, well, nothing should happen to the January 6th people at the U.S. Capitol because of the decisions of local prosecutors and law enforcement
here. I think they should both be arrested.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
I think that's both. But this is what people are seeing all around the nation. They see this liberal group, Black Lives Matter, get by with everything for the most part. They really do get by with everything. And then they come out smelling like roses because they get money back from it. And another group, I mean, it's not just, it's what you're seeing happening, the two-sidedness of everything. And that's what's making people so angry.
What do you think is the two-sidedness of it? What do you think is that? It sounds like you want to say two tiers. What are those two tiers?
The one is, the one side, things get overlooked. They get put by the wayside, forgotten, and never dealt with. The other side, sometimes they deal too hard with them.
Well, hang on. Billy just researched something and said that nationwide, 14,000 BLM protesters have been arrested. Now what?
Okay, they've been arrested. Have they spent any time in jail?
I don't know.
Have they been convicted of it?
Here in the metro area, Billy says whatever his research is, 33 people have been convicted. I don't know. But listen, I know some of the charges that got dismissed. I know the feeling of many of the street cops in Denver, very frustrated with how soft Beth McCann and the city attorney's office was with these violators. That's absolutely true. But what's the connection to January the 6th?
It's two things that happened. They're saying that was a riot or insurrection. This is what we had here in Colorado, was a riot or an insurrection.
I'm glad you're here, Lynn, because I want to ask you, what do you think the purpose of the BLM riots/protests were here in Denver?
I know what they're saying. It was because of George Floyd.
Okay.
That was killed.
But let me ask you this.
I don't think
do you think
purposely killed him.
No, I understand. But do you think that the purpose of those BLM protests, the ones here in Denver, the ones where they trash the Capitol and stuff, do you think the purpose of that was to obstruct governmental operations or to stop if it were something that took place at a time when Governor Polis were supposed to have been sworn in, or whoever the governor was at the time, and it was intended to derail that or stop the legislature from functioning or something like that, doesn't that seem like that would be closer to what happened in January the 6th? I mean, January the 6th seems like the intent of that was to try to derail the certification process. And dang it, Lynn, here we are. I've talked through the last few seconds that I would have given you. Great phone call. I think you've highlighted some important issues. We're going to continue to talk about them, but you got to fill up those phone lines, 303-696-1971. Some crazy text coming in as well. Stick around. It's you and me, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Hey, it's George Brauchler with the last hour of the George Show for this Tuesday, 29 August. First full day. Jeffy gets to be 16 years old. It's also the last Tuesday of the week. For those of you that have been keeping track, this is it. We've only got 1 hour left, and I have to tell you, the texts have been really something. By the way, some great phone calls, even with the folks that I disagree with, even with Lynn at the end there. I appreciate the conversation that we're having. And you can fill up Lynn's line at 303-696-1971. I'll get through some of the text just to reset the topic. There was a sentence that grew out of a case in which a dude in Adams County, an Aurora guy, threatened the life of Governor Polis. He also threatened the life of a prosecutor. He was prosecuted and he was convicted by plea of 2 felony counts, and was sentenced to probation. It doesn't look like any jail at all, just sentenced to probation with the requirement that he go get mental health treatment. Now, listen, in the intervening segments that we've been doing this, I've had this thought, and it's not referenced in here. Did the DA, a Democrat, by the way, and a real DA, Brian Mason, he was a student of mine 100 years ago, legitimate prosecutor. He tries cases. He also has an identical twin brother who appears on Fox News National, which is crazy. In fact, the other day I was looking up there like, what in the hell is Brian Mason doing on Fox News? Anyway, guy's a Democrat, but he's a real prosecutor like Mike Doherty up in Boulder. And I want to know if that guy sought a red flag law thing against this guy, a protection order. And if not, why not? Why didn't you do it? Because remember, for the Club Q shooter, even though they had all of his guns, they had bond conditions, they had him on a protection order. It wasn't a red flag protection order. And of course, the head of the Democrat Party and all the little minions are out there pulling their hair out saying, why didn't you do it? I'm so tired of sheriffs not doing it. Well, the law was changed to allow Phil Weiser and other prosecutors to go seek these red flag things. I just wonder if they did. If you know the answer, call in at 303-696-1971 and tell Billy. But this just happened. This was reported yesterday. And I'm going to ask if anyone knows how to get a hold of Hannah Metzger. Her email, it turns out, is protected here by the Gazette folks, probably for all good reasons. But I want to know if the DA sought a red flag order, and if not, why not? But nonetheless, the issue is this. Dude gets probation, no jail. And I guess I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because this is now another indication of how we have cheapened the institutions that we call our self-governance here, right? And it's happened everywhere. And this is what's spread into these phone calls. All we hear about are things like, well, probation, if you threaten the life of the chief executive of the state, or a prosecutor, by the way, who's trying to hold the guy accountable for prosecuting the threats against the chief executive of the state. We just treat it like it's nothing, like it's some sort of, and the constant drumbeat of the nonviolent offenders there going through the Capitol. Folks, do you know who that sounds like? It sounds like the media describing the BLM riots, the nonviolent, the nonviolent, the nonviolent. Like that matters above everything else. I got to be honest with you, man. Someone breaks into your house to steals your TV. That is not violent. That's not even defined as a crime of violence. But you might see it as something where you think, dude ought to go to jail or prison, right? This is like that. Now, I get it. There's a lot of people out there who disagreed, and some of the texts, man, have been wonderful. Well, this is nice from James. Another show with facts, opinions, and general comedy. Thank you for a platform where listeners can voice their beliefs, but you always ask them to provide proof to back it up. Have a great day. That part's true. And by the way, I'm happy to have you prove me wrong and disagree with me. You know, we do that all the time. I guess if you put lipstick on a pig, said pig is a something chick, then it is. George, I'm concerned about a 2-tiered justice system. And this is in response, by the way, to the conversations that we've had in the months leading up to this, and even today. You'll remember we had Shane call in with some jive about a court of appeals in D.C. saying that prison wasn't appropriate for any of these January 6th trespassers / rioters. That's not at all what was said, but it ended up dovetailing into a conversation about a 2-tiered system. Why hasn't anyone gone after Biden? All this other stuff. And then we hear from guys like Joe from Arvada, which is the FBI is rotten to the core and the rank and file are dirty for 2 big reasons. One, because the word bureau appears in the title. That's right. The word bureau. Got to get rid of it because the word bureau appears in the title. And also because somebody was accused of probably sexual assault on a child or child pornography or something, who was an FBI agent. I don't know the story. I'm just taking Joe at his word for that. But remember, when you're accused of that, the accusations are facts. When you're accused of things like, I don't know, violating records laws at the federal level, those are mere political allegations. But we have this tearing down of institutions. There are no institutions that are protected. If you look at that latest Gallup poll that we talked about a couple weeks ago, the military has tumbled. I mean, it's still the highest ranked institution that's out there in terms of respect, but it's tumbled to like 60%. Recruiting has come to a standstill. I mean, it's very what governmental institutions are left that we are willing to defend? And my guess is none of them. And then we get these texts, and here's one. This is from someone who initially had talked about Vivek and says Vivek is not throwing out ideas. He's proving well thought ideas that resonate with Americans. Look at the polls, pal. And you know, when anyone punctuates a comment with buddy, pal, friend, guy, or anything like that, it's meant to be dismissive and disrespectful. So, and no one is watching the Fox DeSantis debate tonight. Real Americans will be watching Trump with Tucker. Unfortunately, there was actually numbers that showed that the debate that was watched on Fox was better watched than the first one this time, back in 2015. But also Billy had done some research, and some other group had done a deep dive on the numbers that X/Twitter had put out, and they're all bunk. They're all junk. There was no cajillion views or anything like that. It was actually less than was on Fox. Now, I don't want to debate that. I'm just telling you what it says. Now, here's same texter says, stop gaslighting George. You know about J6 prisoners and no burn, loot, murder. What? Burn, loot, murder has been propped up by the evil demon rats. Rats are in all caps. And given a pass, stop treating your listeners like children. Buddy, I don't treat the listeners like children. If anything, it's those talk show hosts out there that are like, just listen to me vomit up stuff for 3 hours. That might treat you like children. I don't. I'm engaging you in conversation. And if you disagree with me, texter, call in 303-696-1971. He says, you're gaslighting. I said, define gaslighting. And then he says, your shtick has run its course. What shtick? Man, I have no shtick. I'm just here talking about things that are happening and asking your opinion on them. And my opinion, and I'm happy to give it, is both sides of the ideological spectrum are tearing down all of our governmental institutions. Who wins when that happens? Who wins when they're all gone? We don't trust the courts. We don't trust government. We don't trust the governor. We don't trust the legislature. We don't trust judges. We don't trust the police or prosecutors. What's left? What's left of us? How do we govern ourselves once we've torn down all these institutions? Don't hear me saying that these institutions aren't fixable and they don't have problems and that the people that run them can't be corrupt and bend them to their will. All that's real. But that's not what we're doing anymore. When you let yourself say, oh, well, the FBI is rotten to the core, or it's all the rank and file as well. When you do that, what's left, man? I didn't even get a chance to ask Joe because he'd just gone so far off the reality reservation about what about those FBI guys that are out there doing things like, I don't know, stopping terrorist acts. Are those guys rotten to the core? How do we distinguish between them? Another text. There's someone, our listener, Eric. A source told me that you're a Democrat. Why, George, did they tell me that? And my response was, they're drunk or a liar? I don't know, man. I've been a registered Republican since I was 18. I've run for and been nominated for Republican offices at the local and state level 3 times. I've been elected as a Republican. This gets us back to the other conversation we had, which is define what it means to be a Republican without referencing Donald Trump. Define what it means to be a conservative without referencing Donald Trump. My guess is most of the folks out there can't anymore. I said, hey, ask this person for their proof and then let them know you don't appreciate liars. Whoever it is, I'm sure is full of garbage. Anyway, another text. Now this woman is exactly right. It is a 2-tier justice. I presume they meant system. And we're watching it all over the country. Black Lives Matter and Antifa are protesting outside the courthouse tomorrow when the Proud Boys go to court, when they're going to be sentenced. Now, is anything going to be done to them? Hell no. Well, what do you mean? Is anything going to be done to them? People are permitted to protest. Remember the peaceful protest? But if Antifa or BLM tried to break into the courthouse when being told to stay out, I'd feel differently about it. But people just showing up to protest what goes on in a government building, we don't want to see that stop. It's when they break into the government building that we want to see it stop. Another text, are you forgetting the black and blue rally? Randy and his wife were there. Their lives were threatened by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Was there also Tay Anderson? I don't know about Tay Anderson part. I think he must have been there. But I agree that something ought to have been done with the intimidation and the violence that took place at the black and blue rally in Denver. Should have happened. Denver police should have made arrests, and Denver DA and city's attorney's office should have prosecuted. They didn't. Now what? I feel like there's a lot of bootstrapping going on here by saying, well, this didn't happen by the locals in Denver, and therefore it's wrong that it happened in D.C. with the feds. I disagree. 303-696-1971. We still love you here in Nebraska, but take that Google button away from Billy. Here's another one. Here's what it was. Russ is finally calling back in. Russ finally got into reception. Someone said, I think that this is a reference to Joe. Make it go away. And then when we finally ended the call, there's a God, thank you. Check out what the tribal police did to a protester at Burning Man. Yeah, I'd have to look that one up. I don't know that one. And then somebody asked me about Dems who have been prosecuted. I sent them a link to a whole bunch of government officials that have been prosecuted over the last 5 years, and they didn't like it. They said, high-level Dems, not local and state. Stop trying to pull the wool over the American people's eyes. Couple things. I wish I was speaking to the American people. Billy and I would love to have that kind of a syndicated show. And frankly, I think it would be awesome. We could have this debate, this conversation all over the country, but we're not. So I'm not pulling the wool over American people's eyes. But here was the question. Name just one Democrat that's been indicted in the last 5 years. And then, by the way, all of this while I was on air. And while I was on air, I didn't respond. So they quickly texted back, no answer. So I responded with a link to a Wikipedia page that has all these people that have been prosecuted, Republicans and Dems. And then they got pissed off because I answered their question about the name the one, just one. And it was the wrong one, apparently. I wasn't naming the one that they wanted, and so they got upset. High-level officials. Let's go to the phone lines. We have time. We can do this here. Russ, you're on 710 KNUS. Russ, I know you were trying to get in earlier, and I'm sorry about the struggles you were having with the cell phone stuff. I just presume you were in Parker or Castle Rock.
No, I'm in Littleton, and I have a cheap phone. I'm working on getting an iPhone, which, by the way, if you want to text your show, you have to have an iPhone is what my iPad tells me. That's
well, you can't do it from the iPad? You couldn't do it from the app? There's an app that your iPad will get.
I texted you twice, wrote you twice, but I don't know where. And then it says SMS, can't send this. I don't know. I don't understand.
That sounds like texty talk. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Yeah. But we'd love it when you get the iPhone if you texted us.
Okay. Yeah, I will do that. But yeah, that's not the reason I'm calling you. But yeah, so the BLM riots. Okay, this is how this works. And there's no saying it goes like this. It's you don't feed the bears. And when you give these black people or LGBT, whatever, what they want unconditionally, and then there's no rule that's ever going to end, like the Vietnam War, they're going to get into that mentality. They're going to get spoiled. They're going to get rotten. And that's why they're running into stores and stealing stuff even today. They're used to being taken care of and having the right as a pronoun. Well, the black people and most of these black BLM, the BLM, which turns into LGBTQ, which turns into liberals, which turns into rioters. It starts with BLM, and then it's not all black people. No, BLM is. They say it's black people because it gets the attention, the PR attention that it deserves. Because black people, hey, you say black people, all of a sudden, boom, everybody goes, oh wow, what's going on there? How can I help you? So they use BLM, but it's not about black people. BLM is not about black people. So that's what they call it. So, but what I'm saying is you spoil these kind of people and you can't turn back and take it away. When is the government ever given something to a group of people and then take it away? You can't do that. You can't feed the bears, because the more you feed them, the more they're going to want, and they're never going to go away. All they're just going to come back and want more, and it's never going to be enough. So that's the problem. Then they get mad, then they get riots, and then they burn down the city. So that's what happened in BLM, and it's going on with BLM. You feed the bears, you can never turn back once you start. And that's the problem. There's no limit to feeding these people. There's no limit to feeding this attitude. The attitude, you can't stop feeding it.
With that logic, Russ, do you feel like then we have to take an aggressive posture with the January 6th rioters, because otherwise we'd be permissive in feeding the bears?
That's racist, because the only reason they want to go after January 6th is because they're against Democrats, they're against BLM, they're against the vote, which again, these criminals and the vote, they're in the power. Okay, you're not going to prove this kind of stuff with the stolen vote. And you say proof. They go together like peas and carrots. These criminals, the Democrats, and the stealing of votes. It's like they steal and they lie about everything else. So you're not going to get your proof, because they are the best at lying, and they're the best criminals in the world. So they know how to cover. They know how to cover what they do. But the circumstantial evidence on that vote is huge. You can go all over the place.
Talking about?
The votes in Arizona, where the lady didn't even get out of her house and campaign or nothing, and the other one did, and she had millions, just like Trump. They had millions of people backing her up, and the other one, Hobbs, maybe not millions, but a lot of them. I mean, if you go across the country, yeah, we can talk millions. But Hobbs didn't do a damn thing in Arizona. I know everybody in Arizona, and the other one, forget her name off the top of my head. The one that lost and is still complaining. She was like Trump.
Carrie Lake.
Yeah, Carrie Lake. She had everybody backing her up, and boom, all of a sudden the vote came out. Where were all these votes?
What do you base she had everybody backing her up on? Polls?
Why not? I don't want to say everybody, but
polls. Is that what you're going off of? Polls?
No, campaign. Things they do and stuff like that. Appearances and stuff. She was like 20-1 for the other lady. The other they didn't even exist as far as anybody else knew, and she shows up and wins. So it's like Biden. I mean, Trump. Everybody loves the guy. Not everybody. I shouldn't say everybody. I know that's not right, but enough people, a hell of a lot more. Circumstantial evidence is there for us to think or know, or at least believe that vote was stolen or rigged and all this other. Yeah. But again, the people that regulate that are the people. They know how to cover their butts. They know the law. They know how to cover that stuff to where the proof isn't going to be there. But that don't mean it didn't happen. The mafia killed a whole bunch of people. Do we have proof on that? No.
Yeah,
we had all
Russ,
dead bodies.
Doesn't it feel like what you're saying is, I just believe it. I just feel it. Yes, there's no proof of it. I just have faith that it's true.
Well, yes, exactly. Sometimes you don't need proof to know something. Sometimes you don't have it in your hands or actually see it and touch it to really believe in it.
Outside of Jesus, what's that other thing you have faith is true without being able to prove it?
Well, I'm not going to get into Jesus, because then we're really talking about.
I know, but I mean, just name the other thing then.
It's just a circumstantial evidence that the things that that, like I said, the campaigning, the people that were voting for, the people down in, I know people in Arizona. I know everybody in Scottsdale.
Can I ask you, Russ, because I don't want to convert this into a stolen election thing, because they're just, and again,
right.
I believe you. I believe
I don't know how we got
folks. There are some folks out there. It's just a matter of faith. As much as they believe in anything, whether there's proof or not, they have an explanation for the absence of proof. It doesn't matter. You can't convince some people that it was or it wasn't stolen at this point. I get that, right? So,
okay.
But let me ask you, when it comes to your impression then of the institutions of government that exist, are there any that you respect? Are there any that you put any faith in at all?
I do. I trust the local police. I like Jefferson County better than I like Denver County Police Department, because Denver County, they're pretty, well, they're a big city. They have to be so diverse. They don't know what the hell they're doing half the time. But, so yeah, I trust police. There are police departments I trust, and I'm not totally anti-government, but at the same time, I know take this for what it's worth. Man not governed by God, because we're getting religious now, will be ruled by tyrants. And there's no wiggle room in that argument. And I hate to get religious with you or put it 100% towards you, but, if you, law, okay, you can say you believe in the law because you're a former DA, you're all that old good stuff. Okay, so you're a law
I believe in the law because I'm an American, not because I was the DA.
Yeah, but the laws can be made that can be twisted, turned. Laws ain't perfect. Christianity's not perfect,
I get it,
but I'll tell you, laws ain't perfect.
That's why we empower elected prosecutors and elected judges and elected legislators and elected governors to have input on what the laws are, how they're going to be applied, and the results of them. That's why we do that, because that gives us the best opportunity to mitigate against a law being tortured and broken.
Well, a law being tortured and broken is usually because it's a bad law. I'm not, because every law out there isn't being BLM and the wing activists that these same judges love. So I don't know. I lost you. Sorry about that.
No, I'm sorry too, man. It sounds like you need to get that iPhone upgrade. And I imagine those Obama phones are still available. If you need to get one, I imagine the government can set you up with one of those. I hear they're pretty swanky.
They are swanky. They're like 20. I had one like 10 years ago. They're like $25, and they don't do anything. So it's a, I don't know, TCL phone, some stupid phone. It's not an Apple iPhone. I get it. Apple's pretty much the best thing. So it's not an Obama phone, but yeah, it needs. Thanks. I'll let you go, George. I appreciate the time.
Hold on,
one thing you do.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing you're good at is you let people talk on the radio. Whether you're biased or not, what you're biased, everybody's got their own bias. So you got to right that. That's America, like you said. But I appreciate the fact to let people talk on the radio. I can talk to the next guy that's coming on this show. What's his name? I don't know. Anyway, anybody
Charlie
else?
Kirk?
You
Dennis Prager.
No, Charles. You can't even get through to those guys.
You can't get.
At least I can't.
And I know what you mean, man. And I look, I respect that. And I'm not going to be like one of those mainstream media guys that says, no, I'm not biased, or I recognize my bias. And that's not true. I know I'm biased. I know where I come from, but I tell you what it is. I'm not hiding it from you. I tell you what it is, but I really respect that, Russ, because that's what I want. I want people to call in and disagree with me, and we have a conversation. And that's what you and I have been doing, man. I love that.
Yeah. And that's what's good about America. And that's what's good about you on the radio. You're I'll just give you a thumbs up. You're one of the, you're pretty fair and balanced, as they say, even though you're on your side of your issues and you're on the legal side, not on the maybe conspiratorial side, like you might say I might be or whatever.
Look, I appreciate that characterization, Russ. And if I'm interpreting what you're saying, I think what you're saying is you're the best thing since Rush Limbaugh. And I really appreciate that. I'm kidding. I just made that up. Russ, have a great rest of the week and good luck with the phone. I can't wait to hear what it sounds like when you nail that iPhone thing down. Listen, got to cut away for a break. Not before I tell you about Empower Home Team at Keller Williams. Let me tell you something really cool. Interesting, maybe more interesting than cool. I think I've told you before, I get in my inbox all these notifications about houses that are for sale in Castle Rock and Parker, some in Highlands Ranch, but mostly Castle Rock and Parker. I've got a realtor bud who hooks me up with that. And I just try to keep tabs on what's going on with the market. I'm just interested in it. And some of these houses I look at and I'm like, oh man, that house is really nice. This is what I saw today. And it's weird because it's for one specific part of Castle Rock, but it is a part of Castle Rock. Out of 6 houses that were new listings, 5 of them had price increases. And when I say new listings, I mean on my email that I got. I'm sure they've been out there. Like 5 of them were price increases. That tells you something, folks. I'm telling you that even though interest rates are continuing to climb up, this scarcity of homes and the availability, it has not kept people from wanting to try to get into your home. This may be the perfect opportunity to take Dave Ramsey up on his suggestion, and that is if you can afford it, it's time to get into that new house. This is as good as it's going to get in the near term. So give Gay Ribble at Empower Home Team at Keller Williams a call. I think these prices are going to keep going up for some of these things. Now, I don't know what's coming for everything else. That's why we talk to the Alpine folks every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, is because they help us know what the broader market is doing. But I'm telling you, if you're interested in getting expert advice on the biggest investment you or your family are ever going to make, and you're trying to get out of one great home and get into a greater home, then you just need to call the people that will get you more money on average for your home than others, sell your home faster on average than others, and guarantee both of those things, that they're going to sell your house for a certain dollar amount within a certain time frame. That's the kinds of agreements that Gay Ribble and the team give. All you have to do to get the benefit of that is go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's gay, G-A-Y-E, hasthebuyers.com. Or you can call her and the team at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. When we come back, more of your texts, your calls. We might even dabble in some of the other areas that are out there. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy. Why should you buy?
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Final couple segments of the hour for this particular show. Some other news we did not cover. I can't call it breaking anymore because it happened yesterday when we were off the air. But you may have heard that there was a trial set in one of the many cases against President Donald Trump. And it is just very interesting to me how all this stuff is stacking up. And I want to begin. I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert here. I do think that these court cases interfere with the election. Absolutely, they do. And they interfere with the campaign that would be the predicate for the election. I think that it could definitely impact, and I think more negatively than positively. And that doesn't mean fundraising. I mean, in terms of votes, Donald Trump's chances of, if not winning the nomination, certainly winning the general election. I think all of that is true. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. So here are some of the dates that we should remember coming up in the near term. There are a bunch of things that are scheduled to take place trial-wise, and I wish I could give them to you. I'm doing my best to do chronological order. First thing, in October of this year, October the 2nd, super liberal progressive attorney general from New York, Letitia James, who campaigned on getting Trump, she has a civil case against him. It's a $250 million fraud case against President Trump and his company, as well as a couple of the Trump boys. I don't think Barron is part of that. I think it's the other two from the other mom. That's a big one. That was filed just about a year before that, September of 2022. And it's an allegation that they lied, in essence, by overvaluing their assets by billions of dollars. Now, the Trumps tried to have this thing thrown out. Of course, the judge said no. And this is what the judge says. This is coming up in October. Again, not criminal case, civil case. Directed the trial would start in October. Here's a quote, "Come hell or high water," and thinks that the trial could last 2 months. Now, what I don't know about it is whether or not President Trump has to be there for the whole trial. I just don't know the answer. But the reason that the overvaluation matters and it becomes a source of fraud is the allegations are that Don Jr., Eric, and President Trump lied to lenders and insurers about the value of their assets in order to get favorable loan terms and lower insurance premiums. One, that sounds super sketch to me in this way. I mean, did anybody lose money? You know, my understanding from this is that everybody got paid, every lending institution, the insurers, whoever was owed something, they got it just like they contracted for. And my best guess is there are businesses all over the country who engage in this sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but pay off all the debts. It's when you do it to the detriment of the other party that it seems to me that it becomes actionable. Now, is it a technical violation of their civil law? I don't know. I'm going to presume it is, since the judge has kept it on track to go to trial. But it sounds like a bunch of political garbage. It sounds like it's a bunch of "I'm going to get you, sucker" kind of stuff. And so 2 months, this case is going to be going on. That is October through December, critical campaign months as we head into the year before the election. They'll be in trial, my guess is, a year before Election Day, 2024. That's the first one. There's another one that comes after that that is also civil in nature. And on January the 15th, 2024, E. Jean Carroll has a defamation suit that dovetails right from the verdict that she got against Donald Trump when the jury found that he was liable for sexually abusing her for whatever took place in a dressing room back in the mid-90s. They awarded her $5 million in damages. And now this is kind of the follow-on suit for defamation, to say, aha, and then you defamed me with your comments about this. She filed the suit years ago, 2019, before he left office, and said that Trump defamed her by accusing her of fabricating the attack in order to gain attention and sell a book. That's interesting. Now, I don't know if he's going to appear in court for this one. He didn't appear for the other suit about sexual abuse. That was a civil one. Again, he wasn't convicted criminally. And for those people who are like, he's convicted, you just stop using the word convicted. Ain't never been convicted. That is a specific term that requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt as determined either through a plea, you agree, or a jury does it. And neither of those things happen. So he hasn't been convicted, but he was held liable at a much lower standard called preponderance of the evidence. And now here's the defamation case that flows from it. I just don't know if he's going to show up. But wait, there's more. Now on March 4th, 2024, the day before Super Tuesday, that's a big deal. Super Tuesday's 14 states. I think Colorado's, are we part of Super Tuesday, Billy? I think we're part of Super Tuesday. 14 states, including Texas and California, and I think we know which direction they're going to go in the general, but we may not know which direction they're going to go in the primary. We'll have to see about that. The day before that begins the allegations that Jack Smith and the grand jury out of D.C. leveled against. We're part of Super Tuesday, Billy says, against the president of the United States for his efforts to overturn the election results and all that other stuff. That starts on March the 4th. Think about that. He will have been in court almost uninterrupted, right? At 2 months from October, that case will be going on in New York, followed by the E. Jean Carroll one. I think that's also in New York. Then there's this one that begins in D.C. Trump's going to have to be there. This is that first big criminal one that takes place. He's going to have to be there. And setting the case this early tells me that the court wants to give itself some wiggle room before the election to make some decisions about whether or not it has to be moved. But so far, that judge has shut down the defense on, no, you don't have to review 8 billion pages of this, and you're well equipped to move forward, and you should have been reviewed, all that other stuff. That case is supposed to take, I'm trying to find it here. It's supposed to take weeks, if not a couple months to try. While that could be going on, March 25th, also in a Manhattan courtroom, is that garbage case that Alvin Bragg filed. Highly political, Letitia James inspired political. And I say that because they both campaigned on the idea of getting Trump. His garbage case about hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. And he's, by the way, not being prosecuted for the hush money itself because there's no crime for that. He's being charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal the hush money payments. Now, remember, it's all misdemeanor conduct, but because Alvin Bragg waited so long, the statute of limitations ran on those. So instead, he had to invent some way to shoehorn them into felonies to keep the statute of limitations alive, and he did. That's March 24th. Could still be in trial, by the way, in D.C. at the time. Then, May 20th, 2024, the Mar-a-Lago case is set to go, coming right off of the heels of the one out of D.C. That, to me, is the strongest, clearest, bestest case, not in terms of values. I'm not giving it value. I'm saying in terms of what Jack Smith did there, it was tactical, it was conservative, and I think it's going to be really difficult for President Trump to avoid a conviction in that one. That one begins May 20th, 2024. And then we have the cases that have yet to be set out of Georgia, out of Fulton County, Georgia. Now, I'm here to tell you, I think that these cases, even though they're individually brought with the exception of Jack Smith being the helm of the DC ones, I think that these things, a legitimate question is, why weren't they brought a year earlier, 2 years earlier, 3 years earlier? What is the reason that these things were allowed to, well, for the January 6th thing, of course, it couldn't have been 3 years ago, but the other ones, why were they allowed to kick around with nothing taking place on them even after President Biden was elected and sworn in? Because now you have exactly what everyone looking at this will suspect is an attempt to distract and derail the Trump campaign for nomination to go against Joe Biden. The optics of this are horrific. There are no good optics for this. There's no good way to massage this as well. It had to be this way because it didn't have to be this way. But this is how it's going on. Now, listen, we got Brian and some others at 303-696-1971. Brian, I promise I'll get to you. What I'll do is take a break a minute early here so I can give you more time to chat on the backside of this thing. But to get there, I need to tell you about superstar Mitch Floria with the Art of Granite. Mitch, as you know, is a legal immigrant turned U.S. citizen who came over to this country. You talk about throwing around, this is Joe from Arvada, man. You talk about throwing around the term communist. We think we know what it means. This guy lived under Ceausescu in Romania before he came here to Freedomville in the United States. Found the perfect woman, got married, started a great family. He's got boys. I think they're lacrosse players. I think that's their jam, lacrosse or hockey or both. But man, they love the physical contact. And they're good at it. He's also a craftsman, has his business right there in Lakewood at about Colfax and 6th Avenue. Go out there. I dare you to go out there. And here's why I dare you. You walk in, you're walking out with a contract to put in a new kitchen countertop or bathroom countertop for your house. The selection is undeniable and unbeatable. The prices, they're wholesale. But by the way, if you're a 710 listener and you let him know that, oh, I listen to George every morning. Boom. Throws in the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing one room, and that makes total sense too, one at a time, he'll throw in the kitchen sink for free. All you got to do is go to The Art of Granite, 4 words put together, lots of T's in there, The Art of Granite, but it's more than granite. It's marble and quartz and everything else you can make a counter out of. theartofgranite.com, or you give him a call on his phone, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. That's The Art of Granite. When we come back, Brian, everybody else on hold, we'll get to some of the texts as well. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I made the promise. I'm going to live up to it. Brian from Arvada, you're on 710. You get the time, my man.
Hey, you keep saying appearance. When does it come like a fact to you? When does it come, hey, this is a coordinated effort?
Refer me back to
when
what I
does
said.
it convince you to cross that line?
Appearance of what?
You said it appears to be. You keep saying it appears to be all these court cases at the same time. You know?
No, what did I say it appears to be?
A coordinated effort.
I never said it.
Trump,
I never said it appears to be a coordinated effort. What I said is this feeds that criticism and that skepticism that all of this stuff is happening at this point in time because they want to try to influence the election. But the part you can't get me to is to conclude that because these things are happening this way, they all got on the phone or texts or snaps or whatever with each other and said, this is how I'm going to do it. How are you going to do it? I don't believe that at all. Do you think that happened?
So you think these are all independent of each other and this isn't a coordinated effort? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Two quick things. I do think each of these is an independent effort with the exception of the Jack Smith cases because he brought both of them. Those are not independent. But I do think they're uncoordinated. But I also think it's just incredibly suspicious when you have a bunch of Democrat elected prosecutors who campaigned on getting Donald Trump filing these charges at this time. But do I think they got on the phone with each other? No, but the coordination would be logistical, right? Like if you knew that there were these prosecutions already filed, indictments already given, all that stuff, you have to have court dates. Of course, you're going to reach out to other folks and say, when are you guys going to set your trial? Because I want to go into court and set mine around it. I mean, that happens, but that coordination makes sense.
So you don't believe that the timing of every one of these, they're coordinating together to support the will of the people and to take out Trump. You just don't believe that?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to know where you sit. And then as far as this.
Well, hang on, but I need you to tell me, Brian, do you think that they're all coordinated, that these 5 prosecutors
Well, it's obvious. It's obvious. Remember when you got those books as a kid?
What's the obvious part?
Connect the dots. It seems like you went from number 1. You can't see the forest through the trees. You went from number 1 to number 20 back to 10.
Hold on, connect the dots.
And you couldn't quite connect the dots. Just follow the line.
It's different. I connected the dots.
Look at the timing of it.
You went 1 to 20 and declared it to be a boat. If you had gone through the other numbers, you would see that it was a car. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, man, I'm not the one reading dots in there that don't exist. You are. So tell me, get me dot to dot. How did we get to this is so obviously a coordinated effort by these 4 prosecutors?
All these prosecutions are timed right during the primary election. Like you said, they could have been done a year ago. They could have been done 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but man.
So why would they all right during, and then all of a sudden, now that judge in D.C., okay, she sets it for the 4th.
Hold on,
and the 5th
I missed what you said, man.
Do you think she might be biased?
Hold on, I missed what you said about the judge. Say that again.
So she sets it. You said something about the 5th being the Super Tuesday or whatever.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Hey, Brian, forgive me. I gave you all the time that I had. They're going to give me 14 seconds. I get your point. I don't think it was meant to derail Super Tuesday. I just think it is what it is. Listen, we're going to come back tomorrow on Hump Day and talk about all this stuff again. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.